Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 17th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Tsunade, Kazekage State. As the sun started to set in the desert village, Raza was about to conclude a meeting he had with Suna's Council of Elders regarding both the village affairs and the new treaty with Konoha and Kiri. Tensions were high, since a good deal of the councillors barely tolerated an alliance with their longtime allies of Konoha to begin with. They found the idea of an alliance with one of their worst enemies outrageous. "I still can't see why you're against this alliance, Chiyoba-sama," the Kazekage told one of the female councillors. "So far, we've gained a lot from it, and it's not even settled." Chiyo was an elderly woman with black eyes, wrinkled face, and dull lavender hair tied in a bun, with two bangs that framed her face. She has been the most prominent dissident to the idea of an alliance. Suna should be strong on its own, not depend on the charity of other villages. "Next thing I know you'll replace our proud puppeteering corps with those mechanical abominations from Uzushio," Chiyo scoffed. "Sister, please, don't insult Kazekage-sama in such a way," another counselor, an elderly man with shadowed eyes and thick gray eyebrows, told her. "No Kazekage in his right mind would dismantle Tsunade's pride and joy. No Kazekage in his right mind should make us depend so much on foreign powers, Ebizo," Chiyo told her brother. Raza groaned and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Listen, either with or without your support, this alliance will have my approval and will continue until the very end. So just for once, try to make things easier for me and dash." Then, at that moment, a small, goggle-wearing toad carrying a scroll on his back appeared from a cloud of smoke in the middle of the table the Kazekage and the councillors were sitting around. The ninja guarding the room immediately drew out their kunai and other weapons. In any case, it was an assassination attempt on the Kazekage or the councillors. "What's the meaning of this?" Raza bellowed. "Hello there. My name is Kosuke." "Are you the Kazekage?" the small toad asked. Jiraiya-san said that the Kazekage was a man that sucked the joy of living out of you by being in the same room as him, and out of all the people here, you fit the description the best. "So Jiraiya told you that," Raza said, his eye twitching a bit. "Did that white-haired idiot send you here?" "With what purpose?" "Yes, he did. He said he had an urgent message for you," Kosuke replied before handing the scroll to the Kazekage. "For your sake, someone better be dying," Raza fumed as he unfurled the scroll. As he read it, color started to disappear from his face. "Kazekage-sama?" a counselor asked. Raza didn't say anything. He then burst out of the council room, leaving the elders flabbergasted. Running as fast as his legs could carry him, the Kazekage slammed the door of his office open and entered the room. He started rummaging under his desk until he finally found what he was looking for, a hidden switch that revealed a secret compartment. Opening the compartment, Raza checked its contents, and his worst fears were confirmed. One of the special compasses designed to track Gaara down was missing. Forests of the Land of Fire, close to the border with the Land of Rivers. At the same time, the group of 6 decided to make camp and rest for a bit. It was decided that they would be on the move an hour before the sunrise, since they have no time to spare. After a light meal, all of them decided to go to sleep. Kankuro, who still had to repair his puppet, volunteered to make the first watch. Naruto left a clone for him as company, and to help him guard the camp. For the best part of an hour, the Suna Jonin and the clone stayed silent, the latter watching the former diligently working on his puppet. Then, the Naruto clone decided to break the silence. "So, how it's going?" the clone asked the hooded ninja. "Almost done," Kankuro replied, not taking his eyes from the puppet. "Though once all this mess is over and we go back home, I'm going to make Tomatsu even stronger than it was. After that fight with the white-haired guy, I have a good assessment of Tomatsu's capabilities and weaknesses. Boy, being a puppeteer sounds like it's even more work than I first imagined," the Naruto clone said, scratching the back of his head. Make no mistake, it is. But the payoff makes it worth it. Puppeteers are among Suna's most feared ninja for a reason, Kankuro proudly claimed. I know. That's why Uzushio tried to take advantage of that, the Naruto clone said. This drew the hooded ninja's attention, which for the first time took his eyes from Tamatsu, and eyed the Naruto clone. What? What do you mean? The chakra golems, the clone replied. Didn't you notice the similarities? Yeah, the Uzumaki clan saw your puppeteers in action during the First War, and thought that maybe they could take the puppets and improve them. How? By making them move autonomous? Kankuro asked. The clone nodded. Ever heard the saying, the weakest part of a sword is its wielder? Well, Uzumaki seal masters worked on that principle. They tried to create a kind of puppet that could move and act on its own, removing the need of having a ninja controlling it all the time, the clone explained. That way, they could be used to bolster an army's numbers, act as shock troops, defend human ninja, and more. Not a bad idea, I must admit, Kankuro said as he went back to work on his puppet. Not bad an idea? It was an awesome idea. Hell, I don't even know why you decided to convert those golems into a puppet in the first place, the clone groaned. Kankuro looked at the clone again, and grinned. It seems to me that both you and your deceased clansman forgot another important saying, a sword is only as good as the one who wields it. While it's true that the way your clan designed the golems would impress Monzaemon himself who? Naruto interrupted. The inventor of puppet ninjutsu. His puppets were rudimentary for today's standards, but truly works of art in their time, Kankuro explained, before retailing the conversation. What I mean is, no matter how powerful you make those golems, they will never replace the need of the human element. You seem very sure of that, the clone said, crossing his arms. Because I am. Tell me, you fought against those golems in Kiri, right? The blonde nodded. Then answer me this, what was their attack pattern? Placing a finger under his chin, the clone tried to remember Naruto's time in Kiri over a year ago. Soon, it came with an answer. Well, they mostly relied on brute strength. They were big and packed a mean punch. They also had some weapons such as flamethrowers and hidden blades in their arms. Some also had kunai launchers. Doesn't sound very sophisticated, does it? Kankuro asked. In fact, that's why the golems are so big and bulky. They need to be, in order to compensate for their lack of intelligence and inability to come with complex plans and strategies. You already saw me in action, and saw what puppets are capable of. Do you think a golem could do the same things I can do with my puppets? To be honest, no, the clone admitted in defeat. Kankuro grinned. Thought so. But then again, this doesn't mean that I think the golems are worthless. The way they're capable of moving on their own is fascinating, and the supplementary seals are sure something. That's why I'm planning to create a new generation of puppets that will encompass the best of both worlds. It's a work in progress, but I have faith in my abilities. Naruto nodded. Hey, Kankuro, might I ask you something? Sure, the puppeteer replied. What moved you to become a puppeteer? Naruto asked. I mean, it sounds something quite daunting. Again, it is, Kankuro replied. As for what moved me to take that path, well, I guess the desire to stand out. I think you have siblings, right, Naruto? Kankuro asked. The clone nodded. A brother and a sister. The two of them younger. They're twins, actually. So, you're the oldest then, Kankuro said. Temari was the only girl, and the oldest of the three. Gaara was the youngest, and a Jinchuriki. And there was me, the middle child with nothing that made me stand out. And my father is the Kazekage, so of course everybody had a lot of high expectations placed on us, myself included. When I realized that ninja puppeteers are considered among the deadliest and most skilled in our village, I decided to become one. Though the more I trained and the better I got, the more I loved it. Eventually my initial motivation faded away, and simply decided to throw myself into what I knew was my calling. Not that I'm not going to enjoy being admired for what I love doing, the puppeteer admitted. I can relate to that too. At first, I wanted to be Hokage so people would admire me and wouldn't fear me for being a Jinchuriki, the clone began. But as I grow up, I'm starting to find better reasons to become Hokage than my own ego. Such as ending all the misery of this world, and bring us closer to a peaceful future. Sounds quite nice, even if a bit utopic, Kankuro replied. Hey, if we all just do nothing under the excuse that, it's just an utopia, of course things will never get better. Naruto protested. Kankuro chuckled. Guess you got a point there. I wouldn't have become the ninja I am today if I let the difficulty of being a puppeteer discourage me from being one. See? All we need to do is keep trying until things get better, the clone stated. Later, Kankuro finished his shift and went to bed, while Naruto's clone was dispelled. He was then followed by the blonde's real self, Haku, Kurenai, Temari, and lastly, Hinata. The Hyuga spent some time watching alone, until the blonde Kunoichi left her sleeping bag, and went to make her company. Temari-san? Shouldn't you be sleeping? You already finished your shift, Hinata pointed out. Temari sighed. I don't think I'll be able to get any more sleep. The sun will rise in a couple hours. Plus I'm quite worried for Gaara, Temari said as she checked the compass. The needle still fluttered a little, indicating that Gaara was still alive. I know how you feel, Hinata replied. I have a little sister. If she was in Gaara-san's place I don't know what I would do. But don't worry, we will save him. Don't doubt about that for a second. Temari smiled at her weakly. Thanks. I wish I could have your optimism right now. Though then again, dwelling in worst-case scenarios isn't going to be of any help. I know. We were once in a similar situation with Naruto-kun. In the end, everything worked out in our favor, though we just barely rescued Naruto-kun from his kidnappers, Hinata recalled. Are you talking about that time Orochimaru invaded your village? Temari asked. Hinata nodded. Turns out, it was just a smokescreen to kidnap Naruto-kun and the Hokage's children. Even if we rescued them, it's not that they came out of that unscathed. Temari chuckled. No matter how much hell Konoha takes, you guys always manage to endure. My father doesn't want anybody to know this, but he's kind of jealous of you guys, and wished Suna could be as strong as Konoha. I'm sure Suna is strong too, Temari-san, Hinata insisted. Temari chuckled again, though this time it sounded more like a dismissive snort. Oh please. Come on Hinata, I'm almost an adult, you don't have to lie to me like that. I'm more than aware that our village is the weakest of the Great Five. Hell, we resemble more a minor village than a great one. That's why our father has been determined to the point of obsession of making Suna as strong as possible. He's aware that we managed to survive so long thanks to Konoha's help, and while we appreciate our alliance, it's rather humiliating to think that we're so dependent on others. I remember Gaara-san winning the Chunin exams finals when they took place in Konoha. I'm sure that helped to improve your village's reputation, Hinata pointed out. It did. For some time. But we can't just hold on to Gaara's victory forever. There are Chunin exams every year, each with their respective victor, Temari said. Hell, I'm sure that if we returned to Suna, our medics wouldn't have been able to find a cure for Sasori's poison. Yet you did it in less than a day. Well, you can thank Tsunade-sama for that. If she never returned to the village, our medical knowledge and skill wouldn't be nowhere near as advanced. As an apprentice of hers, I can tell you that, Hinata pointed out. That's the thing, we don't have a Tsunade of our own to speak of. Which is why our father did everything in his hand to strengthen the village, which culminated into Gaara, Temari replied. That's why he was made a Jinchuriki? Hinata asked. That's why Gaara exists to begin with, Temari replied, making Hinata look at her quizzically. Ah, yes, I forgot you didn't even know the whole story. Do you know why Gaara was chosen to be a Jinchuriki, despite being the youngest? Did you even wonder why Kankuro and I were passed over? Now that you mention it, no, I never thought about that, Hinata admitted. When I was born, my father was already planning to make me the Jinchuriki of the One Tail. But lucky me, I wasn't compatible due some chakra-type bullshit I don't fully understand to this day, Temari began. So my parents went for another baby, and turns out, Kankuro wasn't compatible either. Turns out, there were complications during Kankuro's birth. The medics told my father that he shouldn't try for more children, since the risk of our mother not being able to make it was too high. But my father didn't listen to them. Gaara was born, and to my father's joy, he turned out to be compatible. However, the medics turned out to be right, and our mother died shortly after giving birth to him. I am sorry to hear that, Temari-san. I know how painful losing a parent so young can be, Hinata empathically said. She then adopted a pensive expression, as her gaze shifted from Temari. It's okay. It happened a long time ago, and I'm over that already, Temari replied. You know, that reminds a bit of how Naruto-kun became a Jinchuriki, Hinata began. You see, the 9 tails can't be sealed into anyone. As far as we know, only those of the Uzumaki clan can hold it inside them, and Naruto-kun was the only Uzumaki back then. Guess that's why Naruto and Gaara clicked so easily. They have similarities not even they're aware of, Temari chuckled. However, there's something I don't understand, Hinata said. Why did the Jinchuriki had to be a child of the Kazekage? Did he feel it was morally wrong to pick somebody else? Temari let out a mirthless laugh. My father thinking that something's morally wrong, now that's a good one. No, it's not because of that. He wanted the Jinchuriki to be somebody close to him, somebody he could mold into a loyal asset to the village. In fact, it's a frequented practice in all great villages. I mean, take a look at Naruto, Temari said, as her and Hinata's eyes rested on the blonde sleeping form. The man who ended up adopting him became the Hokage. And even if he didn't, his wife could have been a good candidate. You can't chalk that to coincidences. I see, was Hinata's answer as she absorbed the information Temari had explained. Other than Naruto, Gaara, and that green-haired girl from Taki, Hinata hadn't had much contact with Jinchuriki, so she didn't know much about them. She also remembered Yagura, who pretty much removed the middleman and became Mizukichi himself. But enough talking about them. I think I don't know that much about you. Do you have any goals you want to accomplish? Temari asked. Hinata didn't reply. She placed a finger under her chin and started to think. Well, I want to be a strong ninja, to make my family proud, and one day being able to lead my clan and heal its rift. I like to think I'm getting a little closer to that goal with each day. Have you ever thought about having genin? Temari asked. It's mostly jonin who take them, but some special jonin are allowed to do it as well. At least in Suna. You'd think I'll make a good sensei? Hinata asked, a little flushed. You look like a patient and kind person, not to mention quite strong. The ideal combination for a jonin sensei, Temari said. At first I was rather reluctant when I was told about it, since I thought it would be like taking care of my little brothers all over again, but it's a rather rewarding experience. Plus the time I spend taking care of said brothers prepared me for the job. Where are they now? Hinata asked. They should be in Suna. I left them a training routine for them to do while I was away doing this mission. Hopefully, I'll be able to whip them into shape for the next Chunin exams in your village, Temari said. Hinata smiled. Hanabi-chan, my sister, also plans to enter alongside her team. Maybe her team and yours will clash in the exam? Temari grimaced a little, but chuckled. If your sister is half as good as you are, I hope not for my genin's sake. But then again, it might be good for them to face some strong opponents. Yes. The more prepared they are, the better. I'm sure you want them to get a promotion as soon as possible, but it's better to wait until they're ready, Hinata replied, then she looked downward. You know, when I was promoted, I felt I wasn't ready for the new rank, since my fighting style still had some rather glaring flaws I was barely able to hide. So far, I never noticed any flaw in your fighting style when we fought against those Oto ninja, Temari complimented. Because I trained a lot after that. Guilt can be quite the motivator, hehe, Hinata chuckled awkwardly. You were pretty nice too. You're possibly the strongest kunoichi of my age group I've ever met. Thanks. I did train a lot from a very early age in order to become the very best, Temari proudly replied, before she cast her sight down. Though not as good, given how easily those Akatsuki kicked my butt. Hinata placed a comforting hand on Temari's shoulder. Don't beat yourself up for losing against Akatsuki. They're S-rank criminals for a reason. But don't worry, with our help, you'll be able to pay them back in kind for what they did to both you and your siblings. Temari smirked confidently, and nodded. Just as they planned, the group of 6 got up an hour before dawn and continued their journey towards the land of the rivers. Much to their relief, the compass still worked, meaning that there was still hope to save Gaara. But given how much time they were forced to spend resting, they knew Gaara could die at any moment. Hinata kept her Byakugan active at all times, just in case Akatsuki decided to throw more enemies to delay them. It was decided that if such thing happened, only 2 or 3 will stay behind to fight, while the rest could continue forward. They couldn't afford to waste any more time. Fortunately for them, it wasn't the case, as no enemy came to fight them. An hour after the sun rose, they reached the land of the rivers. It was then when Hinata saw something. There's a group of ninja ahead of us. They're in front of a cave blocked by a large boulder, Hinata informed her teammates. I believe it's the Akatsuki hideout. Are those guys Akatsuki? Haku asked. Hinata shook her head. All of them are wearing Tsunade's ninja uniforms and forehead protectors. They could be Akatsuki under a transformation, ready to ambush us, Kankuro conjectured. Hinata shook her head once again. The Byakugan can see through transformations. They're actual Tsuna ninja. Temari let out a sigh. Even if they're just 4, we could use some reinforcements. The 4 Konoha ninjas and 2 Sand siblings landed in front of the group of 4 Tsuna ninja. They were led by an adult woman with purple facial markings and a turban covering her head, a woman Naruto had seen before. Her subordinates were a girl with shoulder-length brown hair and black eyes, a boy with short spiky hair and glasses, and a smiling, friendly-looking girl with long black hair. The 3 of them were wearing the standard Tsunade uniform, with the 2 young girls also wearing metallic arm guards. The adult woman took a step forward. Temari-sama, Kankuro-sama, it's a pleasure to see you're all right, the woman said in a courteous tone. As are we, Maki-san. You can thank Konoha for our recovery, Temari told the Jonin. Maki nodded and turned at the Konoha ninja. On Tsuna's behalf, I thank you for your assistance, she then looked at Naruto, and smiled. Hello again, Naruto-kun. You surely grew a lot since the last time I saw you. Hey, I remember you. You were there that time I visited Tsuna with Dad so many years ago. Naruto said, in realization. Man, time sure flies, Maki nodded before her expression darkened. It does. I just wish our meeting again was under better circumstances. By the way, these are my students, Matsuri, Mikashi, and Yukata. Matsuri and Mikashi made a polite bow when they were introduced. Yukata happily smiled and waved at the Konoha ninja. Kurenai took a step forward to do the same. My name's Kurenai Yuhi. These 2 are Hinata Hyuga and Haku Yuki. You already know Naruto, Kurenai introduced both herself and her team. Do not take this the wrong way, but are you the only reinforcement Tsuna has sent? Maki sighed and nodded at the Genjutsu mistress. Sadly, yes. Most of our ninja are away doing missions, plus the council fear that with our Jinchuriki abducted, other villages might get some ideas and try to attack us, taking advantage of this, so most of the reserve ninja have been put on patrol border duty. Guess we'll have to do with what we have, a resigned Temari said. I presume you found this place with one of the other 2 compasses. Yes. However, Temari-san, I do bring grave news. One of the compasses was stolen. That's how Akatsuki managed to locate and ambush you, Maki explained. Damn it. Our father kept those compasses under his watch himself. Hell, their mere existence was a secret to pretty much everybody sans a few ninjas whose loyalty to Suna was pretty much unquestionable. To think that there was a traitor among them, Kankuro angrily seethed. While the presence of spies in Suna is sure troubling, we have to rescue Gara-sama as soon as possible, Matsuri spoke up for the first time. Gara-sama might not have much time left, damn right you are. Naruto agreed, before he looked at the large boulder blocking the entrance. So, Gara is behind that rock, right? Maki nodded. Yes. However, the boulder is just part of the problem. It has a seal on it that made it pretty much indestructible. And we did use quite a lot of explosives. Yukata pointed out. Hey, I know a lot about seals. Let me take a look, I'm sure I can find a way to disable it, Naruto offered as he walked to the boulder and began to inspect the seal slapped into it. Hinata-san, use your Byakugan to scout the area. We need to know Gaara's state, as well as the number of enemies we're going to face. I wouldn't count past more Akatsuki being there besides Deidara and Sasori, Maki told the Hyuga. Hinata nodded. In an instant, bulged veins appeared around her eyes as her bloodline limit came to life. However, when she directed her sight towards the cave, the result wasn't the one the Hyuga was expecting. 2 can't see, Hinata muttered. The seal formed a chakra barrier that obscures my enhanced vision. Sorry. Kankuro muttered a curse under his breath. Which means we won't be able to do jack shit until we get rid of that seal first. Naruto, do you think you have to be kidding me, the blonde angrily shouted, causing a few nearby birds to fly away scared. Naruto? Is there a problem with the seal? Kurenai asked a bit concerned, as she and the rest of the group got closer to him. I know this seal. It's a 5-seal barrier. Naruto explained, his anger coating each word. If you know the seal, where's the problem? Mikashi asked. This is an Uzumaki seal. Naruto exclaimed, outraged. Not just Kiri, but it seems that Akatsuki as well profited from my clan's downfall, the blonde shouted as he punched the seal, to no effect. Haku placed a comforting hand on the enraged blonde's shoulder. That's distressing to hear, Naruto-kun. But right now we have more pressing concerns. We need to know how to disable the seal. Realizing his teammate was right, Naruto took a deep breath, as he forced himself to calm down. Gaara needed him now. Yes. The 5-seal barrier, as the name implies, is a barrier formed by 5 seals. One seal is the core, and the others form the barrier around it. I presume this seal here is the core seal. The other 4 have to be scattered not too far away. Otherwise, the barrier wouldn't work. Leave that to me. Byakugan. Hinata activated her Dojutsu once again, and in a few seconds, she managed to find all 4 seals, since they had a strong chakra signature. Found them. To disable the barrier, the 5 seals must be removed at the same time. Otherwise, it won't work, Naruto finished his explanation. Well, sounds easy enough. Yukata happily chirped. Too easy, if you ask me, a suspicious Temari said. Naruto, is there a way for the seals to be booby-trapped? I wouldn't count that out. In fact, this seal is almost tailor-made to force a group to split in order to disable it, Naruto guessed. But, what options do we have then? Is there another way to disable it that doesn't force half of us to split? Our time is running out. Temari urged, as both her fists clenched. I think I can disable it, Naruto stated, as he kneeled down, and unsealed his sealing tools from a scroll. How long will you take, Naruto? Kankuro asked. 5 minutes, give or take, Naruto confidently stated as he started to work on the seal. I'm one of Tsunade's best seal masters. I'll lend you a hand, Maki offered as she joined the blonde. Okay, while Naruto and Maki-san work, the rest of us gather around here and listen to me as I told you about the enemies we're about to face. They're S-class criminals, so stay sharp, Temari began. One of them hails from our own village. Sasori of the Red Sands. When those words left her lips, Maki and Mikashi instantly gasped, while Yukata looked a bit confused. Do you guys know him? Because that name doesn't ring any bell, Yukata asked. Temari sighed. Yukata, I like you, but you need to pay more attention about important stuff like this. Ah, I like you too, Temari-sama. Yukata happily replied. So, about this Sasori guy? Temari held back another sigh. Sasori is the greatest and most dangerous puppet master Tsuna has ever produced. So far, we don't know what kind of puppets he'll use against us, but expect all of them to be weapons of mass destruction of their own. Also, beware of the bladed weapons and projectiles of his puppets, since they're coated in a deadly poison. Hinata-san, fortunately, made an antidote. We weren't able to make much before we left. All I have are 3 capsules, Hinata said, as she showed the 3 vials to everybody. This antidote will not only neutralize the effects of the poison once applied, but it will continue to do so for the next 3 minutes. However, like Temari-san said, try to be careful. The other one is a missing nin from IWA named Deidara. He can animate sculptures out of clay and turn said sculptures into deadly explosives. His main method of attack is to drop explosives from above as he flies on an artificial bird made of clay, so long range is our only option. Be careful when dealing with him as well, since this guy alone managed to defeat Gaara, Temari explained. Okay, done. Naruto replied, satisfied with his quick work. Everybody looked at the seal, and saw that Naruto and Maki had written other seals in a circular pattern around it. True to his word, the blonde took less than 5 minutes. Let's hope it works, Maki said. We'll see right now, Naruto replied, as he placed a hand on the seal, and pumped chakra into it. Sealing art, Void Touch Seal. The 5 barrier seals started to glow in retaliation, followed shortly after by the counter seal written around it. Naruto removed his hands as both seals started to fight each other. Eventually, the barrier seal lost, and it burst into flames. Hinata-hime? Naruto asked, looking at his girlfriend. Hinata nodded, and activated her bloodline limit for the 3rd and last time that day. Yes, the barrier is down. I can see them. Both Gaara and the Akatsuki. There are only 2 of them, I believe they're Deidara and Sasori, Hinata informed them. Gaara's still alive, but just barely. In that case, we need to get rid of this rock as soon as possible. Matsuri urged. It's pretty big, and looks sturdy. How many explosives do you think we'll need? Mikashi asked, as he walked closer to inspect the boulder. Naruto smirked. We won't need explosives. My girlfriend will be more than enough. Right, Hime? Naruto asked, giving Hinata a knowing look. Hinata smiled back, nodded, and clenched her fist. Blue chakra flames burst around it, as electricity started to crackle around it for additional power. She took a few steps backwards, as she moved her fist back. You might want to keep some distance. Meanwhile, at the other side of the cave, the Akatsuki continued with the extraction ritual, which was on the home stretch already. Our enemies are at the gates of this lair, Zetsu's black half spoke up. They disabled the barrier, and will break in any second. I know. I felt the barrier being dispelled, the low-pitched voice of the leader said. But they're too late, the ritual is almost finished. That's not all. The Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails is among the rescue group as well, White Zetsu replied. This could be a golden chance to capture the Nine Tails' other half. Indeed. Deidara, Sasori, get ready for the incoming fight. Your enemies outnumber you 5-1, but I have faith that won't be a problem, the leader stated. You're right, it won't be one. Let them come, their confidence in their superior numbers will make their fall all the sweeter, Sasori replied. Yeah. With this one, it will be 3 out of 3. Nobody in Akatsuki will beat my perfect record, HN. Deidara loudly cheered. You shouldn't fall prey to overconfidence either, Deidara, Obito pointed out. This Jinchuriki is a prey tougher than most. Deidara snickered. Hey, just because you and that snake failed so many times to snatch a single brat, doesn't mean that I'm going to follow your path, I'll keep your words in mind once we see the result of this fight, Deidara, Obito dangerously said. Suddenly, the boulder blocking the entrance was blown up in thousands of tiny shards. After seeing Hinata's sheer destructive display, all Suna ninja were left with their eyes wide open and their mouths agape. Good work, Hinata Haim. Naruto praised, giving his girlfriend a thumbs up. Hinata giggled in return. Everybody, follow me inside. We have to rescue Gaara. Temari called as she prepared her war fan and rushed inside. Temari's orders seemed to snap the rest of the Suna ninja from their stupor, who nodded and alongside their Konoha allies, broke into the cave. None of them knew what to expect once they got inside, but the image before them wasn't definitely in their minds. The group of 10 saw a massive statue, formed by a head, and 2 arms with their hands pointing upwards. There were 9 eyes on the statue's face, 2 of them opened. On each hand there was an Akatsuki, but 8 of them appeared to be mirages or illusions, with only Deidara and Sasori appearing to be really there. Gaara-sama! Matsuri cried. It didn't take them long to see Gaara floating in mid-air, being held by a mass of chakra coming from the statue's monstrous open mouth. There were wisps of red chakra coming from his mouth and flowing into the statue. Gaara-sama, is he? Mikashi stammered. He's still alive, but just barely. We need to act now. Hinata urged the others. Seeing Gaara in such a state filled Naruto's heart with a rage unlike any other. So this is what the Akatsuki did to Yagura? Harvest his tailed beast, then toss him away as if he was an empty husk? He wasn't going to stand for it. Hey there, brat, good to see you again, HN. Deidara said in a mocking tone to Naruto. Though you came here in vain. You couldn't save Yagura back in Kiri, and you came too late to save this other brat, Deidara's taunting didn't improve the blonde's mood. However, Naruto didn't just hate the Akatsuki, since there was something that pushed him to hate something else on top of them. He hated that statue as if it was his natural enemy. If his state of mind was clearer, he would realize that he was experiencing the Nine Tails feelings. Either way, it was going to work in his favor. That statue! Naruto yelled, his voice sounded a bit deeper. His eyes turned red, and the marks on his cheeks became bolder. Everybody, focus your attacks on that statue. Everybody nodded and those with ranged jutsu started to make hand seals. Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Wind Release, Wind Scythe. Fire Release, Dragon Fire Jutsu. Lightning Release, Thunder Fang. Temari's Gust of Wind, Matsuri's Wind Blade, Yukata's Stream of Fire and Hinata's lion-shaped lightning blast all flew towards the statue's face, exploding upon making contact. The statue let out an horrifying, bone-chilling scream as the chakra field that held Gaara mid-air vanished, dropping the Jinchuriki down below. Fortunately, Naruto was there to catch his friend. The ritual has been interrupted, the only female Akatsuki worriedly stated. It doesn't matter, we sealed most of the one tail, look, the leader pointed out. And at that moment, one of the statue's eyes slowly opened. Were we too late? A disheartened Temari asked. No, Gaara is still alive. Hinata informed the others. But he won't last much longer unless we get him some medical treatment. In that case, let's take him out of here. Kankuro stated. Everybody nodded, and proceeded to rush outside the cave. The leader saw this, and wasn't going to let this happen. Sasori, Deidara, don't let them escape. Capture the Jinchuriki, kill everybody else, the Akatsuki leader commanded, as he unsummoned the statue, which disappeared in a poof of smoke. I'll cover your exit. Kurenai said as she made several hand seals. Earth release, multiple earth-style walls. The Genjutsu mistress slammed her hands into the ground, and several layers of rock walls emerged from the ground, making the cavern tremble when they slammed against the ceiling, separating the Akatsuki from the retreating Konoha and Suna ninja. Well, guess this walls will be a pretty good warm-up for the fight to come, Deidara cheerily said as he prepared some of his bombs. Which one is the Jinchuriki, by the way? The angry brat you just taunted, Obito mentioned. Which by the way, seems that you know each other. Care to explain that? Wait, that brat was the Jinchuriki. Deidara asked in shock. He was there when I went to fetch the Mizukage. You had another Jinchuriki in your grasp, and you let him go? Sasori asked, his tone between disappointed and taunting. Hardly unbelievable. Shut it, HN. Should I remind you that I captured 2 of the 3 Jinchuriki so far? I'm the only one here with a perfect record. 2 out of 2. And soon, it will be 3 out of 3. We hope you're speaking the truth, Deidara. I'll be waiting your report, the leader said, before his spectral avatar vanished, followed by the avatars of the other 7 Akatsuki not being there. With a well-aimed set of explosions, the first wall was down. Deidara then prepared another set of explosive clay figurines, while Sasori started to think about something he didn't pay much attention before. So it was true. The Jinchuriki's siblings were in that group. How? They should be dead by now. And far from that, they were in good enough condition to fight. How did they manage to create an antidote for my poison? No medic nin on this world should be able to do that, was Orochimaru right? Meanwhile, on the shallow river outside the cave, everybody else was gathered around Gaara, lying on the wet floor, with Hinata kneeled before him, healing him as best as he could, Byakugan active. How is he? Will you be able to save him? Kankuro asked, biting his lip. I'll try. He's still alive, but his chakra network is quickly breaking down. Even if he still has some traces of tailed beast chakra inside his body, the damage caused by the extraction was too much. What can we do, then? A concerned Temari asked. Hinata looked at her boyfriend. Naruto-kun, he needs a chakra transfer. Alright, the blonde nodded and kneeled beside Gaara as well before touching the redhead's midsection and started pouring his own chakra into him. Hey, you don't know if you dash, Temari was about to ask before Hinata interrupted her. Naruto-kun is an universal chakra donor. Besides, with his massive chakra reserves, there won't be a problem for the donor to risk chakra exhaustion. Hinata quickly replied. The exchange was brought to a halt by a massive explosion coming from inside the sealed cave, that made the area around it tremble. A wave of dust and dirt was expelled from the cave's mouth, indicating that the Akatsuki had finally broken Kurenai's multiple-layered barrier. From the cloud of dust emerged Deidara and Sasori, the former on top of a large clay bird, the latter on foot. I don't think we'll be able to run away with those 2 here, Maki grimly noted. How much time do you need until Gaara is out of danger? I don't know how long it will take us. As much time as you can. Hinata pleaded. Maki nodded, and alongside the rest of the group, prepared for the immediate clash with the Akatsuki. I don't know how you 2 are still alive, Sasori said, his eyes focused on Temari and Kankuro, while he pulled out a scroll from underneath his cloak. But I'm going to correct that mistake right now. Yes. You're about to witness such an epic art display, it will blow you away. Deidara added with a loud snicker. And with that horrible, horrible pun, the second clash against Sasori and Deidara began. For a moment, time froze as both parties stared at each other. Naruto and Hinata kept focused on keeping Gaara alive, while the rest of his Konoha and Suna friends placed themselves around them in a protective formation. The Akatsuki's intentions were very easy to read. Not that it would help them anyway. Deidara grinned, and time continued flowing normally. I'll go for the Jinchuriki. Sasori, take care of the trash. Deidara said as his bird started to fly faster around the blonde ninja. Why I'm always the one who has to deal with the others. I'd like to fight a Jinchuriki myself just once, the rogue puppeteer sighed. Shit, Naruto and Hinata are like sitting ducks, I have to keep this Akatsuki away from them. Kurenai thought as she frantically started to make hand seals. Oh come on, you're pretty good at keeping them at bay, Deidara replied as he formed several smaller clay birds from the mouths in his hands. Let's start this. However, before he could drop his bombs on the targets below, several massive snakes burst from the ground around them and lunged at the flying Akatsuki with their jaws wide open, their large fangs dripping poison. Shit! Deidara loudly yelled as he maneuvered his bird to avoid the out-of-nowhere giant reptiles. Where did these things came from? I didn't see anybody summon. Hey, wait a minute. The blonde Akatsuki made a hand seal and with a burst of chakra, Kurenai's quick genjutsu was undone. Deidara looked rather pissed for falling for such a trick. Push the Akatsuki away from Naruto and Hinata. Kurenai shouted. Ha! I'd like to see you try. Deidara boasted. However, unbeknownst to him, the genjutsu, while short-lived, had already made its job and created an opening. A cold wind started to blow from above. What the dash? Looking above, he saw Haku coming from what appeared to be a portal made of ice floating in mid-air. His hands were grabbing a bunch of sunbon each and tossed at the Akatsuki as he fell. From such short distance, all of them found their mark. Aerg! Deidara screamed in pain. You son of a bitch! Haku gracefully landed on the clay bird, forcing Deidara to take a step back. You almost killed both me and lots of innocents in Kirigakure a year ago. I'm here to repay you in kind, Haku firmly stated, as an ice sword formed on his right hand. Well, thanks you for telling me that. I hate to leave a piece of art incomplete. Deidara said, thrusting his arm forward. A small insect made of clay flew from under his sleeve towards Haku. The ice ninja instinctively jumped backwards, just as the insect exploded, engulfing him in a small but nevertheless lethal explosion. Haku! Kurenai cried. But much to the Jonin's relief, a mirror made of ice formed beside her and Haku stepped out of it. That was close, Haku breathed in relief. We must be careful, that guy is even more dangerous than I remember. Understood. Both you, Temari and Maki's students should try to bring him down with ranged jutsu. Maki, Kankuro and myself will face Sasori, Kurenai stated, as she looked at the rest of the group, looking for their approval. All of them nodded in agreement. Alright then, in that case, let's go. As the group split, Kurenai, Maki and Kankuro prepared to fight Sasori, who looked rather nonchalant and even relaxed. He fixed his eyes on Kankuro, ignoring the two women. You should be dead, Sasori repeated. Before I'll kill you, I'll make you say how did you manage to counter my poison. Guess now you regret not killing us when you had the chance, right? Kankuro replied, as he reached for scroll underneath his clothes, and unsealed Tamatsu. It's time for round 2. Sasori cast a curious glance on Kankuro's shield-wielding puppet. I've never seen that puppet in my life. A creation of yours? Sasori asked, but didn't give Kankuro the chance to answer. You see, one does not reach true mastery of puppetry ninjutsu until you create your own puppet. When I was your age, I had already created dozens of them, and my collection just expanded ever since. But yes, now that you finally stopped use those outdated puppets I created so long ago, you might become a worthwhile challenge. Don't forget about us. Kurenai called, upset at being ignored. I'd never think in doing that, Sasori said with a painfully fake smile, as he held up the scroll he had pulled out earlier. Now, prepare to see one of my most cherished creations. I don't use it that much, so consider yourselves lucky to see it, before I use it to send you to hell. Sasori unsealed the puppet, who appeared to be one with a vaguely human-looking face, whose entire body was covered in a long, dull brown coat. Maki gasped upon seeing it, while Kankuro and Kurenai remained unfazed. I can't believe it, Maki stammered. So, do you recognize him? Sasori replied, as his grin grew wider. Guess that the other two, one being so young, and the other not from Suna, it doesn't ring a bell. Why don't you enlighten them, Kunoichi-san? Yeah, what's with that puppet? Kurenai asked, noticing her Suna counterpart growing pale. That's the third Kazekage, Maki finally managed to say. Even if she didn't meet the man in person, she had seen numerous pictures of him in history books. Yes, he is. You could consider him the masterpiece of my art collection, Sasori replied, his voice consumed in delight. He found about my defection, and personally came to confront me. He probably knew I was too powerful for anybody but him to fight. And he was right, to an extent, given the results, hee. But enough talking, let's begin this already. Chakra threads shot from Sasori's fingers, attaching themselves to several points in the back of the third Kazekage. With a hand motion, the puppet flew at an amazing speed towards Kurenai, who scrambled to adopt a defensive stance. You go first. Sasori yelled, as he made a swift hand motion. A cluster of blades appeared on the Kazekage's right arm, which were brought down onto the startled Genjutsu mistress. However, they didn't sink into her flesh, but clashed against a hard, metallic surface of Tamatsu's large shield. Mechanical light shield block. Tamatsu's chakra, enhanced shield struggled against the Kazekage's blades. Eventually, the former won, and with a burst of chakra, the latter puppet was pushed back. Not bad. Not bad at all, Sasori admitted, and with a flick of his pinky finger, a long, jagged katana appeared on the Kazekage's left hand. Let's do it again. With a hand motion, the Kazekage skyrocketed forward, not choosing any target in particular. Sasori probably wanted to surprise his target at the last second and give them no chance to react. Kankuro, however, wasn't going to allow that. Like hell I'm gonna let you. Kankuro replied, making a finger motion. Tamatsu's shield horizontally split in two. The upper half split into two parts once again, and bended forward. From the resulting slot, a barrage of kunai with explosives attached to them fired forward. Sasori was forced to pull back his puppet in order to avoid the ensuing explosions. And that's not all. Kankuro added, with another finger motion. Tamatsu rose its other arm, and two small cannons appeared at its sides. The guns fired two kunai with ropes attached, that flew towards the retreating Kazekage in a wide arc. The kunai successfully tied themselves around the puppet's arms, immobilizing it. Come on, now. Kankuro shouted. Ignore the puppet. Attack Sasori. Kurenai and Maki nodded and rushed forward. Kurenai made hand seals, while Maki unfolded a large scroll made of cloth. Earth Release, Stone Dragon Jutsu. A giant serpentine dragon made of earth and stone burst from the ground, arching over the third Kazekage and lunged at Sasori, with its jaws wide open. Sasori did the most logical thing, dropped his puppet and jumped to avoid the earth jutsu. However, while he was mid-air, Maki chose that moment to attack. Cloth Binding Jutsu. As if it was alive, the cloth scroll unfurled on its own and flew toward Sasori. However, a blade appeared from the Akatsuki's sleeve and used it to slash the incoming cloth before it could wrap around him. Realizing he was wide open, Kurenai and Kankuro moved to attack once again. However, Sasori's reflexes were faster than the two of them anticipated, as he shot chakra threads towards Tamatsu. Oh shit, not again. Kankuro cursed, remembering his disastrous fight against Fu in Konoha's Chunin exams. However, Sasori wasn't interested in stealing Kankuro's puppet. With a hand motion, he forced the puppet to slam against the unsuspecting Kurenai. The genjutsu mistress crashed against the ground, making a splash upon impacting against the shallow water. Wasting no time, Sasori regained control of the third Kazekage, and with a flick of his finger, he made his puppet to open its mouth, releasing a purple gas that quickly covered him completely. Watch out! Sasori's poison is something you don't want inside your body. Kankuro warned the two kunoichi. How can he survive inside the toxic cloud? Kurenai asked. Maybe he has an antidote. Or purposefully build immunity towards his own poisons in case they were used against him, Maki guessed. It was a common tactic employed by ninja who used poisoned weapons. He's using that poison cloud as a way to build time. Should I blow that poison away with a wind jutsu? Kurenai suggested. Kankuro shook his head. If you do that, you'll spread the poison around. Let him have this round. We can use the small reprieve to regain our breath. Don't worry, the poison mist should dissipate soon. Meanwhile, not far from there, the rest of the Konoha and Suna ninja were trying, without much success, fighting against the flying Deidara on the ground. Wind release, wind scythe. Matsuri crossed her arms, before spreading them in a wide arc, releasing a sharp wind blade at the aerial Akatsuki. This time, it graced one of the clay bird's wings. Not bad, girlie. Keep trying, and maybe you'll hit me before I die of old age, HN. Deidara mocked, as he prepared more of his clay figurines. As a reward for your tenacity, you can enjoy my art. Deidara started to fly in a circle at a fast speed, dropping his clay figurines, which exploded upon hitting the ground. Let's wait until he flies close to the ground. That way, our chances to hit him will be greater, Mikashi suggested. The problem is, he knows he has to keep some distance if he wants to retain his advantage, Haku replied. He won't come down on his own. Then we will force to. Temari energetically insisted. Continue with the attack. Let's goad him into attacking us. I figured out a weakness to his jutsu. As you say, Temari-sama, Yukata obediently replied as she made several hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. The black-haired kunoichi fired a wide volley of fireballs at the flying Akatsuki. Deidara was forced to actually maneuver to dodge them rather than casually fly aside. While he was busy doing that, Haku decided to attack. Ice release, piercing icicle shot. Using the shallow water that covered the ground, Haku created a spear made of ice, and lunged it at the dodging Deidara. Though rather than dodge the ice projectile, he opted to destroy it by tossing it an exploding clay figurine at it. Oh, getting bolder, are you? Deidara asked, less amused than before. Okay then, let me show you how below my level you bunch of nobodies are. Once again, Deidara dropped several of his explosive clay figurines as he swooped above the group of Konoha and Suna ninja. Just like Temari was expecting. The blonde kunoichi prepared her war fan for a counterattack. Now, feel my Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Temari blew her fan, creating a powerful gust of wind that flew upwards, and while it did so, pushed Deidara's clay bombs back towards him, which were about to explode. Oh sure, the Akatsuki cursed, before his voice was muffled by a chain of explosions. Temari watched expectantly from above, but much to her disappointment, the Akatsuki and his artificial flying steed came out from one of the clouds of smoke with only a few minor burns. A snarl of fury appeared on his previously confident face. You dare use my art against me? Oh, such insult won't be left unanswered, you Suna bitch. Deidara hollered from above, as he prepared his next move. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata continued working on keeping Gaara alive, the former pumping his own chakra into Gaara's system, while the latter keeping his body from shutting down with the mystical palm jutsu. Hinata was starting to grow desperate, something that didn't go unnoticed by her boyfriend. "Hinata-heim?" Naruto asked. "Something wrong?" "No matter how much I try, his body doesn't heal. While I can keep him alive, the moment we leave his side, he will die." Hinata cried, much to Naruto's shock. But there has to be something we can do," Naruto shouted back. "We managed to catch Gaara in time. Please don't tell me it was all for nothing. I'm trying booty don't know what to do." "If Tsunade-sama was here," Hinata moaned. Naruto cursed under his breath. He was almost going to let go of the chakra flow, but managed to keep it steady. "We did interrupt the extraction. This shouldn't be happening. Gaara still has some traces of tailed beast chakra inside his system," Hinata pointed out. "But they're fading as we speak. If we could reinvigorate that chakra, do you think that if I used the Nine Tails chakra, it would boost the One Tails chakra and save Gaara?" Naruto asked, sounding now more hopeful. Hinata took a few seconds to ponder the answer, before he finally nodded. "I don't know much about tailed beast's chakra, but if it's similar to our own, I think it could work." "All right then." Naruto cheered, before closing his eyes. "This shouldn't take too long." After a second, Naruto opened his eyes, and he was no longer in the shallow river in front of the Akatsuki hideout, even if there was water at his feet. In front of him was the massive jail gate that kept the strongest of the tailed beasts trapped within his being. "Hey, Kyuubi!" Naruto shouted, but got no answer. "I know you're not asleep, so stop pretending you are." A loud grumble echoed through the chamber, as the sound of a massive body shifting and steps getting closer filled the area. Soon, Naruto saw the head of the fox behind the bars. "What do you want, brat?" the Nine Tails asked. "I need you to loan me some of your chakra, like, really quick," Naruto demanded. "Let me think about it." The Kyuubi pretended to consider his request. "I thought about it. The answer is no. Now scram." "Come on," Naruto insisted. "It's very important. A matter of life or death. If you don't give me some of your chakra, Gaara will die." The Nine Tails grumbled, as he rested his head over his crossed paws. "The life of Shikaku's Jinchuriki is of no concern to me. Please." Naruto begged, but the Nine Tails didn't reply. An idea then formed inside Naruto's head. It was a big gamble, but it was worth trying. "You know, I admit that I'm not the brightest person around. Your honesty is touching, brat," the Kyuubi snarked. "But I'm not as dense to not realize what's going on with somebody who literally lives inside me," Naruto continued. "Just like I noticed your reaction to the Valley of the End, I also noticed the way you reacted when I saw the statue they were using to store captured tailed beasts." The Kyuubi's eyes were wide open for a split second, but Naruto noticed his guest's reaction, and grinned. "It may work yet. You know what that statue is, do you?" Naruto asked the Kyuubi, sounding bolder. "That's none of your business," the fox roared back. "I also have the impression that, as much as you hate being inside me, you'd hate a million more times being sealed there, am I right?" Naruto asked. "What is your point, brat?" the Kyuubi impatiently shouted. "If you don't help me save Gaara, I'll hand myself to the Akatsuki," Naruto replied, and his grin grew wider upon seeing fear in the Kyuubi's eyes. "And you'll be sealed there. How does that sound?" You wouldn't dare to do that," the Kyuubi shouted, sounding both angry and genuinely scared. "If you do that, you'll die." Naruto shrugged. "We all have to die someday. Well, at least, we humans do. It's a bluff. Nobody would be stupid enough to do something like that." The Kyuubi roared. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Is that a challenge?" The Kyuubi grit his sharp teeth, as it growled menacingly at Naruto, before deciding that it was better not to test the blonde's idiocy. "Alright, you win," the Nine Tails conceded. "What do you need of me?" Gaara still has some of his beast's chakra inside his body, but it's too weak. "I need your chakra to reinvigorate it," Naruto explained. A wave of red-colored chakra came from within the cage, and washed over Naruto, who immediately felt the power of the fox coursing through his chakra system. "That should be enough," the Kyuubi snarled as he walked to the back of his cage. "Now leave me alone." However, Naruto didn't leave. "Not just yet." "Hey, Kyuubi," he called. "What?" the tailed beast hollered back. An earnest smile formed in the blonde's mouth. He gave the Kyuubi a thumbs up. "Thanks a lot. I will never forget this." The Kyuubi remained silent for a few seconds, looking almost surprised by the blonde's reaction. He quickly gave up trying to understand the human's reasoning, and returned to the darkness of his prison. "Bah, whatever. Now disappear if you know what's good for you." A veil of fiery red chakra formed around Naruto, and that same chakra started to flow into Gaara as well. Rather than mold his own chakra to fit Gaara's, he molded the Kyuubi's chakra to fit the One Tail's. In a few seconds, Gaara was covered in the same red cloak of pure energy as well. "It's working," an elated Hinata cried. "The Kyuubi's chakra is boosting the One Tail's chakra as you guessed." As the process continued for a couple minutes, Hinata saw how Gaara's chakra network finally stabilized thanks to the few remaining bits of the One Tail's chakra, and his health returned back to normal. Confident with her work, Hinata stopped applying the mystical palm jutsu. Taking that as a hint, Naruto also stopped the chakra transfer. "Did we?" Naruto tentatively asked. Hinata smiled brightly, and nodded. "Yes. Gaara-san, while still weak, is out of danger now," she said, before an explosion rocked the entire place. "Or all the out of danger he can be with those two around. Even if I doubt Akatsuki still has any interest in Gaara, I'll take him somewhere safe." "I'll return as soon as I can," Naruto stated as he tossed Gaara's unconscious form over his shoulder. Hinata nodded. "I'll go help Kurenai-sensei with the puppet master." "I doubt I'd be of much help against the Flying One," she said as she watched her boyfriend leave with the unconscious Gaara. Through her Byakugan, Hinata could see that in the fight against Sasori, the rogue puppeteer was dominating the battle, with the two Suna and one Konoha ninja mostly defending themselves from his attacks rather than trying to attack. So far the Akatsuki was pretty focused on the combat. Hinata was sure he could deal a blow without him noticing. And sometimes, one blow it's all what it's needed to finish a battle. Hinata looked down at the shallow water, and frowned. "With all this water, I can't use lightning jutsu without a huge risking of harming the others. This is like fighting on those rice fields all over again. Gentle fist only, I guess." Two blue flaming lions made of chakra appeared on Hinata's hands as she rushed towards the cloaked puppeteer. The splashes her steps were making when touching the water would make an stealthy attack impossible, but if she attacked from behind, it would force Sasori to address her and turn his back to her teammates, and use that window of opportunity to attack. Twin lion fists. As expected, Sasori already moved to dodge Hinata's attacks a couple seconds before the Hyuga was even close to hand range. However, Sasori didn't use his puppet to defend himself against Hinata, but merely sidestepped, and jumped back into the side, so he could have all four ninja within his range of vision and attack. The redhead smiled at Hinata. "Oh, a Hyuga," Sasori softly said, as his smile grew wider. "What a lucky find. Let me guess, you want my eyes, right?" Hinata asked as she adopted a fighting stance. "That's not going to happen." Sasori just shook his head. "Oh, no. You misunderstood me. While your eyes are indeed very valuable, that's not the only thing that interests me. No, I want your whole body. That way, I can make a puppet out of you. I always love to make a puppet of my victims that have a powerful bloodline limit, just like the Kazekage here." You'll make a fine addition to my collection. As interesting as such offer sounds, I have to turn it down. I'm not planning on becoming one of your toys, Hinata replied. Though, as she focused on the Akatsuki in front of her, she noticed something she had overlooked at first. Wait a minute, you aren't even human. You're a puppet too. Kurenai, Kankuro and Maki were a bit confused by such revelation. Sasori, meanwhile, chuckled lightly. The Byakugan is sure useful to spoil surprises, Sasori replied, shaking his head in mock disappointment. But yes, I am a puppet. I have transcended my humanity, and become a form of art myself. A body that doesn't age, doesn't rot, is easy to repair. Not all your body is a puppet. I do see living tissue, Hinata pointed out. Yes. Sadly, I can't become a full puppet without losing my ability to use chakra. That's why I had to keep a little piece of my former self untouched, the puppeteer mentioned. You're sick, Hinata replied in disgust. Though whatever you wanted to accomplish by mutilating your body, it won't help you against us. We'll see then, Sasori said, making a finger motion. Thousand hands manipulation force. Several compartments opened on the Kazekage's left arm, revealing several storage seals. From said seals, a large number of long puppet arms emerged, all of them ready to smash Hinata. The Hyuga, however, had a fitting counter in her arsenal. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hinata started to move her palms forward in a pushing manner, so fast they became blurry, releasing thin streams of chakra from the palm of her hands, effectively countering the incoming mechanical arms coming at her. Interesting ability, Sasori praised, not realizing Maki rushing forward, scroll of cloth in her hands. Cloth binding jutsu. Once again, the cloth Maki was holding flew as if it had life on its own, and tightly wrapped itself against the mass of arms. Quickly, now, the Suna Kunoichi called. Hinata and Kurenai nodded, and both rushed toward Sasori. Each one of them pulled several kunai with explosive notes attached to them, and ignoring the puppet, they tossed them at the red-headed Akatsuki. With a flick of his finger, the mass of arms detached from the Kazekage, and both it and Sasori jumped backwards. Mechanical light shield block. A shield of chakra formed around the Kazekage, protecting both the puppet and Sasori from the chain of explosions. Following that, several pipes emerged from the puppet's chest, tearing holes in the dull brown cloak it was wearing. The pipes fired multiple kunai, prompting all the women to jump aside. No! Deflect them, don't dodge. Kankuro called out, using his puppet to protect himself from the projectiles. Too late, Sasori stated, with a confident smirk. Like before, the kunai had ninja wire attached to them, and Sasori used it to maneuver around the 3 kunoichi. While Hinata and Kurenai were able to avoid or downright cut the wire before it trapped them, Maki wasn't so lucky, and the wire wrapped itself around her legs. No! Maki cried, as she fell to the ground, while being pulled towards the puppet. Got you! Sasori cheered, and his grin grew more sadistic as he made a couple of finger motions. And the real fun beings now. Kurenai and Hinata were quick to help Maki, but were forced to stop and take a step back when they saw what Sasori did next. Another pipe burst from the puppet's chest, and expelled a stream of purple gas. Maki was soon engulfed by a purple poisonous cloud. Don't breathe that gas. It's a deadly poison. Kankuro warned the Konoha Kunoichi. Hinata then pulled out something from her ninja toolbox. Kankuro could see it was some sort of capsule with a yellow liquid on it. Hinata tossed it inside the cloud. Thanks to her Byakugan, he could see that Maki caught it. Maki-san, that's an antidote for Sasori's poison. Inject it into your bloodstream, and you'll be immune to the poison for the next 3 minutes. Hinata told the Suna Kunoichi. What? Sasori asked in shock. You made an antidote for my poison? How? It couldn't be possible. No one can, it's impossible. Hinata couldn't help but smile a little at Sasori's shock. Like Naruto-kun used to say, impossible only means it hasn't been done yet. A couple of soft snapping sounds signaled that Maki had finally cut the wires that were immobilizing her. Sealing art, cloth binding armor. Huh? Sasori dumbly asked. Maki then jumped out of the cloud of poisonous gas. She was now covered in one long piece of cloth which wrapped around her body and limbs, leaving only her eyes exposed, which gave her the appearance of a mummy. While she was mid-air, she made a single hand seal. Multiple cloth razor whips. Like the name of the jutsu implied, many whips made of cloth emerged from under Maki's bandage, and lashed at both the Kazekage puppet and Sasori. The redhead jumped aside, as he maneuvered his puppet into dodging or cutting the incoming cloth with the multiple blades on its right arm. However, Maki managed to wrap one of her cloth whips around the base of the arm, and pulled, leaving the puppet unable to move. "How did you?" a dumbstruck Sasori asked. A buzzsaw appeared on the puppet's left arm where its forearm used to be, and moved it to cut the binding cloth. "Quickly, now!" Maki called. Kenkuro maneuvered Tomatsu forward, ready to smash Sasori's puppet with a brutal shield bash. However, the Kazekage's right arm detached from its body, allowing Sasori to move the puppet once again. Kenkuro shot a thread of chakra at the discarded arm full of blades, and tossed it backwards as far as he could so the Akatsuki couldn't reattach it later. The Kazekage fired several smoke bombs, covering the zone in one big, mist-like gray cloud, while it moved towards Hinata, whom for some reason gave Sasori the feeling that she was the most dangerous of his four opponents. The arm with the buzz saw came down. Heavenly spin. Hinata turned into a spinning blue dome of chakra, which incidentally raised gusts of wind that blew the smoke away, and splashing water around. When the buzz saw struck her, the force the Hyuga's jutsu blew the weapon away from the puppet's arm. Foiled, Sasori put some distance between him and his attackers. Having lost both its arms, it seemed that the Kazekage wouldn't be a threat anymore. Seemed being the key word here. Despite appearing to be on the losing side, Sasori's face sported a confident smirk. This didn't sit well with the Konoha and Suna ninjas, who were smart enough to realize that the Akatsuki wasn't simply overconfident. "Well," Sasori began, sounding a bit tired. "I have to admit that the quality of my current opponents is, at the very least, worth of some respect. Guess I have no choice to use this, but once I do, your chances of winning will be close to zero." Sasori made a hand seal, and the Kazekage opened its mouth with a mechanical click. Black sand started to pour out of it. Maki and Kenkuro gasped, immediately recognizing what the puppet was doing, something that didn't go unnoticed by the Akatsuki. "Being from Suna, it seems that you're familiar with this ability in particular, am I right?" Sasori said with a teasing grin. "Why don't you educate your Konoha collaborators, and let them know what they're against?" The third Kazekage had a very rare bloodline limit called magnet release, Maki explained, growing more uneasy by the second. Such bloodline can be used to manipulate metals, but it's incredibly hard to master. The Kazekage, trying to imitate the one-tailed sand powers, used it to manipulate iron grinded into fine powder that was called iron sand. Such ability made the third Kazekage the strongest ninja Suna has ever seen. Yet Sasori was able to best him, Hinata squeaked, with a gulp. "Wait a minute, if the Kazekage is a puppet, how can he use a bloodline limit? It shouldn't be possible." Kurenai pointed out. "That's a good question. A short answer would be that I developed a special process in which the people I turn into puppets retain their special abilities. Otherwise, doing so would be pretty much useless. The process requires the person to be alive while the transformation takes place, which makes it more difficult than it should be. But the results are definitely worth it. You three are worthless, so you won't have the honor to be included in my art collection." Sasori's eyes rested on Hinata, and glinted with a predatory glee. "But you, a main house Hyuge'll make a lovely puppet. Oh, I can't wait until I can turn you into a work of art." And I can't wait until I can turn you into. Hinata started to trail off. Naruto-kun is much better at this than I am. Anyway, your art career will end today. What's an artist who doesn't welcome some challenge? Sasori asked no one in particular, as he made a hand seal. Let's begin this. Magnet release, iron sand drizzle. The third Kazekage tore part of his already ruined cloak, exposing its chest. A compartment on its left chest opened, revealing some sort of chakra-emitting apparatus. The iron sand floating around him started to gather and compress into hundreds of projectiles. I don't like where this is going, Kurenai said as she started to make hand seals. Earth release, multiple Earth-style walls. 3 walls emerged from the ground between the 4 Konoha and Suna ninja, and the Akatsuki and its puppet. I don't think that's going to be enough, Maki stated as she generated 2 long cloth whips from her hands. Hinata also took a step forward, ready to take the attack head-on. With a shout of "Die," Sasori launched a barrage of iron sand bullets forward. In no time, they shattered the first wall Kurenai had erected. Other 2 barrages, and the walls came down. The next barrage of bullets came soon. Double cloth helix. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Maki's cloth whip started to spin at high speed, forming 2 cones in front of her that successfully deflected most of the bullets, while Hinata used her custom-made technique to do the same. An impressive defense, Sasori praised, his confidence unwavering. But how long can you keep it up? Kurenai and Kankuro noticed that while he fired the bullets, Sasori was also retrieving the iron sand from the ones he already fired, and compressed them into more bullets that he could fire. He was right, Sasori could go on forever, while Hinata and Maki couldn't. In fact, they were starting to show signs of exhaustion. Shit, I need to do something. Kankuro seethed as he made a hand seal. Shadow Clone Puppet Jutsu. 2 clones of Tamatsu appeared, and the hooded puppeteer took no time to attach chakra strings to them. With a swift motion of both hands, he positioned them in front of Hinata and Maki. Triple Mechanical Light Shield. Tamatsu and its 2 clones used the defensive jutsu in tandem, creating 3 chakra shields that quickly merged into a really big one, successfully blocking the barrage of attacks. This is your chance. Go while I'll cover you. Kankuro stated, as he tried to keep the shield active as long as possible. Maki nodded, and rushed forward, but she was met with an admittedly small barrage of bullets that forced her to step back behind the safety of Kankuro's puppets. Even with this cover, his puppet can attack in multiple directions, Maki said, panting a little. Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked, looking at the raven-haired woman. Kurenai nodded as she started to make hand seals. I'll provide you a distraction. Sasori saw Maki jumping from her hiding spot behind Kankuro's puppets, and rushed towards the Akatsuki once again. The redhead grinned as he made a hand seal. Quite the bold move, Sasori praised, as he formed iron sand into a spear, which dived at the mummy-looking woman, impaling her in the chest. But foolish. Then much to her shock, Maki burst into smoke, and 2 Makis took her place, which continued her dash towards the now startled Akatsuki. He repeated the process, nailing the 2 Makis, but it only caused them to split again, having 4 enemies to deal with. What kind of jutsu is this? The stupefied redhead wondered, until he realized what was going on. Oh, a genjutsu. Turns out I'm still vulnerable to those. Sasori brought his hands together to form a seal, and with a discharge of chakra, the illusion was broken. That didn't mean that all Makis disappeared, they were simply reduced to 1, who was still charging at him, accompanied by Hinata. With a hand motion, he brought the 3rd Kazekage closer, and issued his next command. Magnet release, iron sand gathering assault. The iron sand formed into multiple, long and thick nails, which rained upon the 2 kunoichi, forcing them backwards. The attack didn't cease, since the Akatsuki wasn't going to let his enemies go on the offensive. A few meters back, the Tamatsu clones disappeared, and Kankuro stopped channeling the protective jutsu through them and started panting heavily. I don't think I'll be able to do that anytime soon, Kankuro said between pants. Can you still fight? Kurenai asked. Kankuro smiled, and nodded. Of course. I still have a few surprises that Kankuro, however, was taken aback when he found himself unable to move his puppet. The hell? Tomatsu doesn't move. It's like there's something jamming all its joints. It has to be the iron sand, Kurenai deduced. Guess that Sasori doesn't want you to interfere again. Goddammit, the hooded man cursed, stomping his foot on the wet ground. Since the iron sand is connected to that puppet, if we destroy it, yours might be able to move again, the genjutsu mistress deduced. Let's hope we can do that. I'll try to help you as much as I can, Kankuro said, sadly discarding his now useless puppet. Meanwhile, Sasori continued to bombard Hinata and Maki by dropping large and/or sharp iron sand constructs on them, forcing them to stay in the offensive. The two of them were forced to fall back where Kurenai and Kankuro were. This isn't working, Maki realized. His magnet release is way too powerful. There's no way of getting close to Sasori as long as he has the Kazekage. Maybe we've approached this from the wrong perspective, Hinata thoughtfully said. What do you mean? Kankuro asked. We focused on Sasori, because a puppet's weakest part if the ninja controlling it, but what if we focus on destroying the Kazekage first? While it's a good idea, the result would be the same. Even if we focus our efforts on destroying that puppet, we have no ways to surpass the power of the magnet release, Maki explained. Kurenai smiled confidently, realizing what Hinata was suggesting to do. We can, if Sasori thinks we're going to target him, just like we did so far until now. Hinata smiled back, and nodded. Whatever you're planning, it won't work, Sasori said as he and his puppet came closer. I'm already growing bored of this fight. Now, die. The iron sand above him took the shape of several cubes and pyramids. With a hand motion, Sasori started to direct them at the four Konoha and Suna ninja. Come on, go. Kurenai urged, as she started to make hand seals. Earth release, Earth Dragon Bullet. In front of Kurenai, a serpentine dragon made of earth and stone emerged, and lunged at the incoming iron sand block. Both constructs were shattered to pieces when they crashed. Undeterred, Sasori sent more constructs towards the incoming trio, but Kurenai kept repelling them with her earth release jutsu. When she felt she was close enough, Maki made a couple hand seals and slammed her fists into the water-covered ground. Feeling a tremor under his feet, Sasori jumped backwards just in time to avoid several sharp cloth whips emerging from underground. The Akatsuki smirked once again. Close, but you'll need to do better than Sasori then realized that he was struggling to pull the Kazekage back. Much to his shock, he saw that Kankuro had attached his own chakra threads to him, and was pulling back. Nothing stops a puppeteer from trying to snatch somebody else's puppet. I learned this during my first Chunin exams, Kankuro boasted, with a grin of satisfaction. This is your chance, Hinata. The Hyuga dashed forward, as chakra lions covered her fists. A scowl formed on the Akatsuki's face as she passed the Kazekage. I'll admit that it was a good plan, but you won't catch me off guard, Sasori replied, making a hand seal, commanding the Kazekage to create a shield of iron sand around him, and waited for Hinata to get closer to skewer her alive. However, Hinata didn't do that. Instead, she suddenly spun over her heels, and with a quick double palm strike, she shattered the Kazekage to pieces. It took a few seconds for Sasori to process what had happened, as the iron sand around him became inert, and fell to the ground. Yes. We did it. We destroyed the Kazekage. Maki loudly cheered. It was something rare for the otherwise soft-spoken woman. You were right, Kurenai-san. Tomatsu works once again. Kankuro cheered as well, happy to recover his puppet. While happy on the inside, Kurenai didn't share the Suna ninja's optimism. Sasori was angry, but he didn't look like somebody who was just defeated. "Hinata, fall back," the raven-haired woman commanded. Hinata nodded, and did as she was told. The group of four waited intently to see what Sasori would do next, now that his allegedly strongest puppet was nothing but pieces of scrap. I admit that it was quite the impressive tactic. Such teamwork in the heat of the battle is mostly unseen, especially from people belonging to different villages, Sasori genuinely praised, as he started to unbutton his cloak. "To think that you even destroyed the third Kazekage Hover, diverting my attention by making me think you're going after me and then destroy my puppet won't work with the next one, don't tell me he is going to," Hinata began, becoming mildly distressed. Sasori then discarded the cloak, confirming his initial suspicions. Everybody gasped. Even if the Hyuga had told them beforehand, seeing it with their own eyes was something else. Underneath the cloak, there was another puppet. 2 poles emerged from the back of his hips, deploying 5 poison-dripped blades. His gut was open, revealing a thick steel cable coiled around a pole instead of intestines. He had 4 scrolls attached to a compartment in his back. On his chest was his core, the only living part of his body left, marked with several red kanji. "Myself," the Akatsuki proudly announced. Meanwhile, not far from there, Deidara continued his fight against the Suna ninja and Haku. After realizing Temari's tactic of blowing his explosives back at him shortly before he detonated them, he had changed tactics, and opted to attack closer to the ground. "I might be more vulnerable to their attacks, but this way, my attacks will have more chances to hit," Deidara thought as he commanded his bird to do a low swoop and prepared more explosive clay figurines. "And they won't see this coming." As Deidara approached the Suna ninja, and Haku, Yukata stepped forward and made several hand seals. "I'll stop him before he has any chance to attack," Yukata proudly stated as she prepared her jutsu. "Fire release, Great Dragon Fire." Yukata breathed a stream of fire at the incoming Akatsuki. Deidara quickly tossed a clay figurine at the incoming inferno, which instantly exploded. From the ensuing cloud of smoke and dirt, multiple clay birds flew out in arches, most of them headed towards Yukata. The black-haired girl yelped, as she jumped backwards multiple times, trying to avoid the incoming explosions. Mikashi grabbed a handful of kunai and shuriken, tossed them forward, and made a hand seal. Manipulating attack blades. As if they had life of their own, the kunai and shuriken flew towards the clay birds, impaling most of them to the ground. Yukata was able to avoid the few that exploded, before she fell on her butt. "Ow!" Yukata whimpered, panting heavily. Matsuri walked towards her friend and helped her back on her feet. "That was close." "Thank you, Matsuri-chan, Mikashi-kun." Temari blew a small gust of wind with her fan to dispel the smoke of the explosions, and much to her annoyance, Deidara was nowhere to be seen. "Where did he go?" Matsuri asked, gritting her teeth a little. "He's possibly underground. Watch out from attacks from below," Mikashi warned. "That can't be true. If he was underground, there would be a hole," Matsuri protested. True to the bespectacled boy's words, clay creatures started to pop from the ground, and launching themselves at the Suna and Konoha ninja. "Watch out!" Haku shouted, tossing 3 senbon at a clay creature that was about to latch onto Matsuri, breaking its momentum, and exploding prematurely. At first, they were able to fend off the creatures reasonably well, but the more they fought, the more they appeared. Haku and Temari realized that some of them didn't explode, got back on their feet, and tried to attack again. If Hinata was here, she could locate Deidara underground and see the creatures before they emerged, Haku thought, as he impaled a small clay creature to the ground with an ice spear. And if Kurenai-sensei was here, she could bring Deidara out with an earth jutsu. But they aren't here. "Come on, Haku, think. What can you do that can be of help? Everybody, to me," Temari called as she reared her fan backward. The trio of Suna Chunin and Haku all leaped towards her, with the explosive creatures waddling towards them, forming a large group. Just like Temari wanted. Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. With all enemies in one spot, Temari was able to blow them away with a powerful gale. However, that proved to be a temporary solution at best, since the creatures got back on their feet and charged once again. Worse, more creatures continued to pop from the ground. It was then when Haku noticed something. That's it. All the creatures appear around the same spot, the ice ninja deduced. That has to be where Deidara hides. They keep coming. Matsuri-chan, what are we going to do? Yukata cried. Matsuri herself didn't look that confident about their chances either. Two don't know. Just keep fighting. He's bound to run out of these things sooner or later. Temari-san, I think I have an idea. Haku called, while casting a freezing blast at a group of small clay creatures, slowing them down. They all come from the same spot. Push them against that spot. Temari gasped in realization, before she smirked, realizing what Haku was suggesting. Alright then. Matsuri, I need your help. Use wind attacks to push the clay dolls from where they come from. Understood, Temari-sama. Matsuri obediently replied. Both kunoichi jumped at opposite sides of the spawning spot so they could surround their enemies before pushing them back. Wind release, breakthrough. Wind release, wind raging wall. As they pushed the clay creatures backwards, the clash of wind jutsu had the unintended effect of creating a tornado that kept them inside, pushing them backwards whenever they tried to walk towards Deidara's enemies. What do we do now? Matsuri asked. Nothing. Keep blowing. Wait until more clay creatures emerge. Temari ordered. Haku smiled to himself. Temari had quickly realized what was his plan. As more clay creatures emerged, the tornado was having trouble keeping them trapped. The accumulated mass was starting to become too heavy for the current winds. That means it was the time. Matsuri, get away. Yukata, set those bastards on fire. Temari hollered as she jumped backwards. Haku, protect her from the explosion. Yukata nodded and made several hand seals. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Once again, Yukata breathed a stream of fire at the gathered clay creatures, causing all of them to detonate, producing a massive explosion that would have made Deidara proud. Haku managed to build around Yukata and himself a sturdy ice barrier that absorbed the shockwave of the explosion. Just like Haku had predicted, Deidara was hidden underground under the spot where the clay monsters were emerging, and that explosion had forced him out, hurling him into the air before he fell with a thud a few meters away from them. This, Deidara grumbled, as he got back on his feet as badly as he could. This is the second time you use my art against me, how dare you, how dare you. The Suna ninja and Haku slipped into fighting stances as they watched the Akatsuki shambling towards him. Despite being badly bruised and having numerous burns across his body, none of them were foolish enough to think that he may have one last nasty ace in the hole. That's it, no more playing around. You're about to feel the full power of my art. Deidara shouted as he tossed a clay figurine at his feet. A cloud of smoke enveloped Deidara, and when it disappeared, the Akatsuki was riding another giant clay bird. However, this one was much bigger than the ones he had used before, especially its wingspan, which gave it a majestic appearance. Behold the C3 clay phoenix. Deidara hollered as the clay bird flapped its wings, taking flight, gaining attitude in no time. After quickly flying around in circles a couple times, the phoenix opened its long beak, releasing 2 balls of clay. In a poof of smoke, the balls of clay turned into smaller replicas of its progenitor, but still noticeably bigger than the ones used before. Oh, you still back to that? Temari asked, as she readied her fan. Yeah, I don't like your art, you can have it back. Temari blew a powerful gust of wind once again. However, unlike the other time, the clay creatures weren't pushed back. The artificial birds flapping their wings faster, pushing against the wind current blowing against them. The wind eventually ceased, and clay birds continued their descent. Temari grimaced. Deidara grinned. "Take cover." Boom! Deidara shouted, as he made a hand seal. The clay birds exploded, producing a blast much more powerful than his other figurines. While narrowly avoiding the explosion, the Tsunade ninja and Haku were tossed into the ground by the ensuing shockwave. "No time to sleep!" Deidara hollered, sending another duo of clay birds from his phoenix's beak. "I'll stop them this time," Yukata said, making hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. The black-haired kunoichi breathed a volley of small fireballs from her mouth, that spread in a rather wide arc. The clay birds, however, expertly maneuvered through the fireballs as if there was an intelligence controlling them. However, while they did so, Mikashi prepared his next move. Manipulating attack blades. A foursome of kunai with explosive tags attached to them flew towards the clay creatures. The clay birds managed to dodge them as well, but Mikashi directed them back, and they found their mark. With a hand seal, the bespectacled Tsunade ninja detonated them, destroying their targets. "Heh, not bad," Deidara said, as he prepared his next attack. "But the next one is going to be wind release, Raisin Shuriken." A loud whirring screech interrupted Deidara's ramblings, and much to his surprise, he saw what appeared to be a shuriken made of pure chakra flying at him. His battle instinct screamed to get out of its way. Not having time to maneuver his clay phoenix into dodging it, Deidara opted to jump away. As he fell, he saw the shuriken crash against his clay phoenix, resulting in a massive explosion of wind and chakra. While that was sure something, as he fell, Deidara couldn't suppress a tinge of admiration for the ensuing blast the shuriken produced. Despite the height he fell from, he managed to land on his feet and eyed his opponents. He noticed that there was somebody there who wasn't before. "You!" Deidara said, outraged. "The Jinchuriki." "Yeah, that would be me," Naruto said with a smirk, flanked by a single clone. He then pointed upwards. "And that was my most powerful jutsu so far. I still have enough nature energy for a second one. Except this time around, you won't be able to dodge it." Naruto formed a Rasengan, and his clone started to infuse it with wind chakra, taking the form of a shuriken as he did. "Wait a minute, did he said nature energy? Is this fucker a sage?" Deidara asked, before noticing the coloration around Naruto's eyes, confirming his doubts. "Then there's no way I can defeat him like this, especially with all these people around. Make sure he doesn't escape," Naruto told the others as the jutsu slowly reached completion. "It will be you who won't be able to escape." Deidara fired back as he grabbed some of his explosive clay, and ate it with the mouth on his face, instead of the ones in his palms. "I have a bad feeling about this," Matsuri began. Deidara then started to bloat as if he was balloon, while laughing maniacally. "Ha ha ha. Let's see how you stop this. There's no way to avoid this explosion," Deidara boasted as he swelled up more and more. "Even if you avoid the initial blast, the shockwave will tear apart the land and cause a massive torrent. Is that madman going to blow himself up?" Mikashi asked in shock. "I'll stop him before he explodes," Naruto said as he prepared to toss his Raisin Shuriken, which had reached completion. "No. If you do that, you might trigger the explosion," Haku stated. "Then what do we do?" It was Matsuri who asked this time around. Another idea dawned upon the ice ninja. Send him high into the air with a wind jutsu. It might be the best way to avoid the aftereffects of the explosion. "Good idea. Come on Naruto, Matsuri, let's do it," Temari said. The blonde Jinchuriki and brown-haired girl nodded. Naruto undid the Raisin Shuriken, and the three of them placed themselves around Deidara, surrounding him. 3 wind jutsu came from 3 different directions, clashing against the bloating Akatsuki, producing a powerful tornado that hurled Deidara into the air. Keep going. He's still too close to the ground. Haku urged. The three-wind ninja poured as much power into their jutsu as possible. However, thanks to Naruto's nature energy, he was able to give his the necessary boost to push Deidara much higher. And a couple seconds later, the Akatsuki exploded in a massive fireball, which started to quickly expand outwards. Everybody, get close to me. Haku yelled as his hands flew through hand seals. Thankfully, the ice ninja created a multi-layered ice barrier around the group in time, which thankfully protected them from the massive blast that Deidara's bloated body produced when it detonated. So, this may sound dumb, but is he dead? Mikashi asked. Naruto shook his head. No. I'm afraid that was a decoy. I still sense the real Deidara, a kilometer or so to the north. He probably used body replacement with a clone without us noticing. As much as I'd wish to, there's no time to chase him, Haku stated, earning a nod of approval from Naruto. We need to help the others against the other Akatsuki. Alright. This one won't escape, Temari said in determination as she and the rest of the group rushed towards the other battleground. By the way, where is Gaara? Is he okay? Gaara is fine. I left him in a safe place near here, with 2 clones watching over him. We'll get him back once we're done with the Akatsuki, Naruto stated. Whoa, Yukata said in awe, stopping dead in his tracks. What is that? The others stopped as well, catching what the black-haired Suna girl had seen first, a mass of puppets, almost 100, floating above Hinata, Kurenai, Kankuro and Maki. I'll tell you what that is. Trouble. A big one, Temari deadpanned. The group of 4 watched in horror the creature in front of them, half a puppet, half human, while at the same time being neither, blurring the line between human and machine. Sasori, however, continued to smirk. You have no words for my greatest piece of art? Sasori asked, his voice showing some conceit. I guess it's natural. Not every day one gets to see something like this. Greatest piece of art. You perverted the noble art of puppetry, Sasori, Kankuro seethed, as he moved Tamatsu into an attacking position. You've been Suna's greatest shame for too long. Today, we will get rid Suna of that shame. Sasori chuckled condescendingly. Of course, those who want to break the mold and take art to new limits are branded as criminals. Good thing I stopped caring about that village you like so much long ago. With a clicking noise, Sasori brought his arms forward, pointing their palms towards the Konoha and Suna ninjas. A pipe emerged from each palm. The uppermost scroll on his back briefly glowed with a blue light. Everybody adopted a defensive stance, ready to react to whatever Sasori was about to throw at them. Now become ashes. 2 streams of red-hot fire shot from Sasori's palm cannons. Kankuro and Hinata moved to block the attacks. Mechanical light shield block. Vacuum palm. Tamatsu raised its shield, creating a barrier of blue chakra that intercepted one of the fire streams. Hinata's vacuum shell also clashed against the second, but it managed to overpower it, and continue unimpeded. The Hyuga yelped as she jumped sideways in an attempt to avoid the red streams of fiery death. Maki motioned her hands forward, shooting multiple cloth whips from her hands at Sasori. But predictably, they were burned to ashes. Hinata, let's surround him. He won't be able to attack all of us that way. Kurenai suggested. The Hyuga nodded, and the 2 women started to run toward Sasori, avoiding his streams of fire as good as possible. Once they were close enough they leaped above him, landing at opposite sides. Now the 4 of them were around him. Now you can only attack one of us at a time. Maki taunted. Sasori let out a bone-chilling cackle in return. And what makes you think that? Sasori replied. The human puppet stopped his fire assault, and spread his arms to the side. Then, his whole upper body minus the head started to spin at a fast pace. It was truly a disturbing image to watch. However, it wasn't as disturbing as the implication of what this new ability entailed. Burn already. Fall back, a panicked Kurenai ordered. Sasori ignited his palm flamethrowers again, releasing waves of flames in every direction. As he increased the spinning speed, the flames started to take the shape of a giant fiery tornado that slowly expanded outwards. The heat produced was so intense, the shallow water started to boil and evaporate, covering the area in steam. The tornado of fire ceased. However, the steam covering the area made it impossible to anybody but Hinata to see what was going on. Hinata then started to notice a faint pulse of chakra coming from Sasori. She didn't have time to ponder what was it when she saw him raise his hand at Maki's position. "Maki-san, watch out!" Hinata cried. Maki jumped backwards, leaping into the air as she narrowly avoided a stream of fire. Another chakra pulse, and this time, the stream of fire was aimed at Hinata, who managed to dodge it. "Wait a second, that chakra pulse, that's how he's locating us in the steam." Hinata thought in realization. "I'm the only one who can see him, so it falls on me to end this." Another realization dawned upon the Hyuga. She saw that the ground was now completely dry. The heat produced by Sasori's attack had evaporated all the water in the zone. That means that there was no danger of harming her allies if she used a lightning jutsu. Something she was planning to do, since this situation called for a powerful ranged attack. Her hands flew through hand seals. Lightning release, thunder fang. Thursdaying both palms forward, Hinata released a mass of electricity that took the shape of a lion head. It let out a roar as it flew towards Sasori. Huh! Being so focused on offense, that attack caught Sasori completely off guard. On top of that, since nobody had used lightning jutsu so far, and the attack blasted him full. "Error!" Sasori yelled, clutching the only organic side of his body. "Oh, it's been so long since the last time I felt pain, I don't like it." "Well, prepare for more then, since there's more from where that came from," Hinata defiantly stated, as she got ready for a second attack. The steam started to dispel, allowing everybody without a Byakugan to clearly see Sasori. They noticed the uppermost scroll on his back was no longer there. The four Konoha and Suna ninjas allowed themselves a brief sigh of relief upon realizing that this means no more flamethrowers. Said relief, however, was short-lived as the second scroll briefly glowed blue. "I'm no stranger to lightning release either," Sasori said, as he pointed one hand at Hinata, and the other at Kurenai. "Now de." Two lightning bolts fired from each palm of his hands. Kurenai dodged the one aimed at her, while Hinata channeled lightning chakra into her hands, and swiped the blast away. Kankuro decided he had been on the defensive for enough time, and moved Tamatsu to attack. Sasori noticed this, and fired an electric blast at the puppet. With a click, the puppet moved its shield forward, dispersing the electric blast. With another click, several slots opened from the shield, and fired a volley of shuriken at the Akatsuki. "Useless!" Sasori yelled, as he fired two lightning bolts to the ground, and used the resulting blast to launch himself into the air, above the puppet. He then fired his ventral cable at Kankuro. The puppeteer managed to dodge it, but still made a scratch on his torso, before it stabbed into the ground. Kankuro fell on one knee, already feeling the weakening effects of the poison. "This time I won't make the same mistake I did before," Sasori hollered, as he retracted his cable, propelling himself towards Kankuro. His side blade started to spin like a buzzsaw, as the deranged rogue puppeteer dived at the loyal poisoned one. "Die!" However, when Sasori was about to tear Kankuro to shreds, something violently stopped him. Turning his head 180 degrees, he could see that Maki had attached several cloth whips around the poles that held the spinning blades. Maki then, helped by Kurenai, pulled Sasori backwards, and the two women tossed the human puppet in the opposite direction, sending him flying. With Sasori momentarily out of commission, Hinata rushed towards Kankuro, as she fished another antidote capsule from her ninja tool pouch. Wasting no time, she rolled Kankuro's right sleeve, and nailed the capsule into it. There. Now the poison shouldn't be any concern for the next 3 minutes, Hinata explained, before taking a better look at the puppeteer's wounds. Let me heal that as well. Heh, thanks. This is the second time you saved my life, Kankuro chuckled, as he watched Hinata healing him. Think nothing of it, Hinata said, smiling a little. It's what we medics do. How many of those antidotes you have? The puppeteer asked, mildly concerned. Just one. If more than one of us is poisoned, well, unless we can find the necessary ingredients to make more. Suddenly, there was a massive explosion in the sky, producing such intense light, it almost blinded everybody there for a split second. What was that? Hinata asked in shock. Damn it, that other Akatsuki and his explosions. Kankuro snarled. If something happened to Temari. It seems that my idiot partner just blew himself up, Sasori replied, as he returned to the fight. I knew this would happen sooner or later. Deidara never reacts well to being cornered. That means that now I'm all alone against both you and however survived the explosion from the other group. But something tells me you're not going to surrender, aren't you? Maki asked. Sasori's smirk was all the answer she needed. No. I killed a Kazekage, I know very well what will happen to me if I surrender. Sasori then used a chakra thread to get one of the 2 remaining scrolls on his back. That means I'll have to end this fight right now. You should feel proud of yourselves, very few people have actually saw me using this. You can say it's my ultimate jutsu. Sasori unfurled the scroll, and dozens upon dozens of puppets poured from it. Their number was so big, they almost blocked the sun. Lastly, Sasori opened a compartment on the left side of his chest, and 100 chakra threads shot from it, attaching to 1 puppet each. Needless to say, the 4 Konoha and Suna ninjas were taken aback by the magnitude of such display. The puppets were more or less the same size, all of them human-like in shape and form, with a surprising amount of detail to their faces, sporting multiple facial photos, hairstyles and even accessories, like nose rings. All of them were wearing long plain maroon cloaks, and were carrying at least some sort of long-bladed weapon. Poisoned, no doubt about it. These puppets are my strongest weapon, which I used once to conquer a whole country, Sasori said, with that ever-present smirk. You ragtag foursome don't stand a chance against me now. This is unreal, Kankuro stammered. Monzaemon Shikamatsu was considered the best puppeteer who ever lived, and his limit was still 10 puppets, don't falter. There's no way he can micromanage so many puppets at once. He'll send them in small numbers, Kurenai guessed. I'd like to know what you do define as small, Sasori replied, his grin widening even further, looking even more psychotic. Red's secret technique, performance of 100 puppets. Everybody braced as the puppets descended upon them. And while Kurenai was right in that Sasori was unable to command all 100 puppets at once, Sasori was still able to control quite a lot of them at once, between 10 and 16. Scatter. He won't be able to focus on all 4 at once if we're not together. Kurenai suggested. Her suggestion wasn't contested by Sasori this time around. Contrary to the skill and minute precision Sasori had displayed when using the 3rd Kazekage, here it seemed that he wanted to use overwhelming force and numbers to crush the Konoha and Suna ninjas. The puppets attacked in an unrefined manner, blindly charging towards them while trying to skewer their enemies with their bladed weapons. A far cry from Sasori's previous puppets. But for those massive numbers, he had to sacrifice complexity, or else they'd be too hard to manage. Kurenai mostly relied on earth and some wind release-based jutsu to deal with any puppet that got close to her. Maki wrapped her cloth whips around them, and slamming them against each other. Kankuro fought defensively, cornering himself against a wall of stone so the puppets couldn't surround him, while letting his own puppet take the brunt of their attack. Hinata, meanwhile, fought her way towards the red-headed Akatsuki. There's no way we can win against so many enemies, Hinata reasoned. This seems to be Sasori's last resort. If I can get close to him, the fight will be over. Hinata pushed every thought out of her head other than fighting the puppets and pushing forward. While the puppets lacked organs or chakra network, the Byakugan allowed her to easily spot their weak spots, such as their joints or fragile internal mechanisms. She also saw several puppets dashing at her from different sides. Her whole body started to crackle with electricity. Lightning release, heavenly thunderstorm. Hinata started to spin, becoming a tornado of lightning bolts that blasted the incoming puppets away, shattering most of them to pieces. Sasori watched that display in awe. So, the Byakugan allows her to see any attack regardless of where it comes from. So ambushes will be useless, Sasori reasoned. Still, one has to wonder how long can she last until her human body gives up. Hinata continued to fight the incoming puppets as if there was no tomorrow. She was careful spending what chakra she still had, meaning that no more powerful attacks like the one she had used just a moment ago. Of course, such line of thought went down the drain the moment she saw a rain of swords falling upon her. Heavenly spin. Hinata successfully deflected the incoming blades, scattering them around the area, with the added benefit of destroying a bunch of puppets near her. But the moment her spinning slowed down, more puppets swarmed her. The Hyuga heiress was pushed back as she deflected the incoming blows, careful they wouldn't cut her skin. Hinata allowed herself a second to see how the others were doing. Kurenai and Maki were keeping their ground reasonably well. And Kankuro even managed to commandeer a couple of Sasori's puppets to form a better defense. In fact, it seemed that Sasori was only doing the bare minimum to keep them at bay, while focusing all his efforts in bringing her down. Listen everyone. I'm Sasori's main target. Try to push forward and end him already. Hinata called. I don't think so. Sasori replied. As if on cue, more puppets joined the fight, attacking Kankuro, Kurenai and Maki with even more intensity than before, as if Sasori was trying to prove her wrong out of spite. Sasori has lost a lot of puppets already. But the less he has, the more he can sharpen his focus and control all of them in a more efficient manner, Hinata reasoned, while dealing with a trio of puppets. If this continues, we won't be able to dash, Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. A gust of wind blew away a group of puppets that were coming towards Hinata from above, which she had seen but wasn't focused on. She also noticed the group of 6 people that had joined the fray, among them her 2 remaining teammates. Naruto-kun. Haku-kun. Hinata called them in joy. Hi there. It seems that we came here just in time. Naruto said. That other Akatsuki exhausted us a little, but I believe there's still enough fight in us to at least assist you, Haku added. Hinata nodded. We can't just waste more time and energy on these puppets. We need to get to Sasori and end this already. Naruto and Haku nodded, before the former said, leave that to us. We'll keep those puppets at bay, and open a way to him. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto created a multitude of clones, which charged forward upon coming into existence, drawing Sasori's attention. A mass of puppets went to greet them. While the puppets were far more durable than the clones, the latter ones did their job at keeping them busy. Ice release, multiple piercing icicle shot. Haku created several ice spears that floated above him, and launched them whenever a puppet came close to either him or Hinata, impaling them to the ground or a wall of stone. The trio of Konoha ninjas were successfully getting closer to the Akatsuki, which was starting to grow desperate. Inconceivable. Me, Suna's greatest ninja, who managed to kill the 3rd Kazekage cornered by these children. No, I won't allow it. This is not my end. My art is eternal, and so I am. Sasori extended both hands. His left hand fell off, and a long, sharp blade appeared in its place. He also shot a chakra thread from his right hand to pull an axe from one of his already destroyed puppets. He then fired his ventral cable forward, prompting Hinata and Haku to jump sideways, while killing some Naruto clones, before stabbing itself into the ground. Retracting the cable, he launched himself forward towards Hinata. Die! Hinata didn't to dodge this time. Displaying her agility and elasticity, the Hyuga heiress nimbly avoided Sasori's poisoned blows, before taking a step forward, and softly poking Sasori's heart with her index finger. That's all what she needed. The burst of chakra she sent through her fingertip made Sasori's last remnant of his human body to burst into chunky salsa, bringing his sordid life to an end. The chakra threads he was using to keep the puppet army disappeared, and the remaining puppets fell to the ground, motionless. Nobody said anything. Everybody took a moment to regain their breath, and make sure nobody was seriously hurt. Whoa! You guys did it! You killed Sasori! Kankuro cheered, happy to see that the man who kidnapped his brother and brought both him and his sister to near death had finally ceased to be. Hinata fell on her butt and started panting heavily, as she felt all the accumulated stress and exhaustion washing over her body. Naruto wordlessly sat beside her, and wrapped his arms around her shoulders. The Hyuga also saw Kurenai walking towards her. Congratulations, Hinata. Despite her naturally happy attitude, the fight had also pushed the Genjutsu mistress to her very limit. You have the honor of being the first person to ever kill an Akatsuki. Yes. 1 down, 9 more to go. Naruto cheered, shaking Hinata a little. This will send a powerful message out there. Akatsuki isn't invincible, Haku agreed. Even then, underestimating them would be foolish. Just look how much damage just one of them can do, Temari said, looking around the battlefield. She then looked at her younger brother. So, you are planning to scavenge these puppets, right? Temari asked. You can bet on it, Kankuro replied, as he walked towards the deceased Sasori, and lifted his body. Starting with this guy. Are you planning to use Sasori's corpse as a puppet? That's morbid, Maki added, a bit disgusted, no longer wearing the cloth armor. It's not really his corpse. Plus it would be a waste, Kankuro replied, as he sealed Sasori's body inside an storage scroll. By the way, Naruto, Temari said, as she walked towards the blonde. Now that we took care about the Akatsuki, what about Gaara? Oh right. I left him hidden between a bunch of trees and bushes not far away from here. I left a couple clones watching over him, Naruto made a hand seal. The others couldn't see it, but he was dispelling one of those clones in order to gain his memories. Yup. Gaara's still there. Go fetch him then. I want to take him home, Temari asked. Naruto nodded. Gaara slowly opened his eyes. He blinked a few times when the sunlight proved to be too intense for his weary eyes. He found himself staring at several blurry figures that towered over him. As his eyes got used to the light, said figures became clearer, and the former Jinchuriki could now see they were his siblings, Naruto and his teammates, and Maki and her students. Huh? Gaara mumbled, still sleepy. What dash? Gaara was interrupted when both Temari and Kankuro pretty much latched at him in a tight embrace. He could hear the two of them crying. Gaara, Temari sobbed, almost in a whisper. You have no idea how happy I am to see that you're okay. Yeah man, you gave us quite the scare. Kankuro said, as his tears ruined his face paint. What happened? Gaara weakly asked. I don't remember anything after we fought those Akatsuki. It doesn't matter, little bro. All that matter is that you're alive, Kankuro replied. Gaara gently pushed his siblings back, and with their help, he stood back on his feet. Even then, I wish to know, Gaara's eyes then rested on Naruto. Given all the people gathered here. Maki took a step forward, and cleared her throat. Long story short, the Akatsuki got you, and extracted the tailed beast from you. These Konoha ninja helped us rescue you and drive the Akatsuki away. We even managed to kill one of them, the infamous Sasori of the Red Sands. Gaara processed the Jonin's words with a thoughtful expression. However, there was something that didn't make any sense. Wait, Gaara replied. If that was true, I should be dead. You almost were, Kankuro added. We managed to stop the extraction ritual when it was about to end. Naruto and Hinata managed to heal you and stabilize what little-tailed beast chakra remained inside you so you wouldn't die. You weren't the only ones they did save, Temari added. If it wasn't for Konoha, Kankuro and I would have suffered a long and painful death due Sasori's poison. Once again, Gaara paused to absorb this new information. So, the one tail was no longer within his body. That would explain why he felt so different. On one side, he didn't miss having a murderous beast sealed inside, but on the other hand, he felt an unexplainable sensation of emptiness, as if a part of him had been destroyed. I see, Gaara replied, as he walked closer to the Konoha ninja. Thanks to all of you for your help. Suna will never forget what you did here. Hey, we did help too, you know. Yukata protested. Yukata. Maki chided her. Gaara's lips formed a small smile, something rare to see in the stoic redhead. No. It would be unfair to deny them their contribution in this endeavor. You also have my thanks, and I'll make sure that you're properly rewarded. Yay! Yukata cheered. Matsuri then walked closer to Gaara, a smile on her face as she tried to hold back her tears. It's okay, Gaara-sama. Seeing you alive and well is all the reward I need, Matsuri earnestly said. Now, if all it's said and done, and if it's not much to ask, I'd like to return home, Gaara weakly said. Everybody nodded, and headed towards Tsunade at a pace slow enough for Gaara to be comfortable. A few hours later, long after the Konoha and Suna ninjas left the land of the rivers, two Akatsuki appeared in the site of the battle, easily identifiable since most of the puppets Sasori had used were still there. I'm sorry, boss, the black half of Zetsu said, as he and his other half checked the puppets. But it seems that they took the body away. We won't be able to get the replacement. Obito, however, smirked as he noticed something. He walked towards something that caught his attention, a single, disembodied hand. Picking the puppet hand up, he noticed it had a ring on its thumb. Not all the body, it would seem, Obito said, taking the ring, and tossing the hand away. Sasori was gracious enough to make sure we'd be able to replace him once he saw his end was close. Those are good news, indeed, the white half of Zetsu replied. So, shall we proceed to induct the new member? Do you really need to ask? Obito asked, as he placed the ring inside a pocket under his cloak. Of course. I'll make sure the moon portal is ready as soon as possible, Black Zetsu said, as both he and Obito vanished. Tsunade next morning to say that the previous day had been one of the hidden sand village's most distressful days would have been an understatement. The news of the Akatsuki attacking the Kazekage's children and Gaara's abduction had been like a hammer blow to the collective spirit of the villagers. Fear and worry spread among the population as wildfire, as they wondered if this was nothing but the first part of an attack on the village as a whole. The general panic made the Kazekage and his counselors to send most of his available ninjas to secure and watch over all the strategic zones, just in case a larger attack would fall upon the village, leaving only a small team to assist Temari, Kankuro and the Konoha ninja with Gaara's rescue. And, indeed, one of those fears appeared to be true when one of the village watchers spotted somebody in the horizon. Somebody is coming, the Suna ninja said, seeing shadowy figures coming from the east. Are they enemies? How many of them? His partner asked. I'll tell you right now, the first ninja said, as he pulled out a spyglass, taking a better look of the newcomers. It's a small group. 10, I think. They don't appear to be enemies. In fact, they're from our own way. What? What did you see? The second ninja impatiently asked. It's Gaara-sama. They brought him back. The second watcher immediately understood his partner's reaction and sudden excitement. I'll spread the good news. Gaara-sama is alive and back with us. As the group of 7 Suna and 4 Konoha ninjas slowly approached the village, Kurenai started to notice something odd. Look like a large gathering of Suna ninjas is forming at the entrance of the village, Kurenai pointed out. Hinata activated her Byakugan, confirming her sensei's words. Indeed. Are they here to greet us? Hinata wondered. And yes, Hinata's guess proved to be true. Once they were close enough, the Suna ninjas started to loudly cheer, both for Gaara, seeing him return, and for all the 10 ninjas that had made his return possible. Gaara reacted to this by showing as little emotion as he usually does, but on the inside, his heart was flooded by a warm feeling. Look at that, brother, Temari pointed out. The very same people who used to fear and hate you are cheering for your return and safety. Gaara smiled. He was about to say something, when the cheering abruptly ceased, much to the group's confusion. The mass of Suna ninjas then moved aside, forming a passageway, revealing the reason the mood had been killed so fast. Sporting an unreadable expression stood Raza, the 4th Kazekage, and Gaara, Kankuro and Temari's father. Wordlessly the Kazekage walked forward, his eyes fixed on Gaara, as the rest of the Suna ninja silently watched their supreme commander, his stone-cold face unchanged. The seconds he took to bridge the gap and met Gaara's group felt like an eternity. Father, Gaara simply said. Then, the unthinkable happened. To everybody's utter shock and surprise, Raza suddenly wrapped his arms around his youngest son, and started sobbing loudly, in an undignified manner befitting a Kage, which indeed caught off guard everybody who already knew the stern and unpleasant man. I'm sorry, Gaara, Raza cried. I'm sorry for all of T-Sit was me who made you this, who made you carry this burden, father, Gaara replied, seemingly not acknowledging his father's state. I no longer possess the one tail within me. The Akatsuki took it away. Regaining some of his composure, Raza wiped the tears from his eyes as he broke them embrace and stood up. It's okay, Gaara, Raza replied, his lip quivering a little. When I heard the news about your abduction, I didn't think about Shikaku until much later. It was your life that worried me the most. And seeing you here, alive and well, fills my heart with a joy unlike no other. Gaara realized far too late what an awful father I've been to you, his eyes darted to Kankuro and Temari. To all of you. I won't ask for your forgiveness, I'll earn it by becoming both a better father and better Kazekage altogether. While they still harbored some resentment towards their father, Kankuro and Temari smiled a little at their father's change of heart. By the way, Temari replied, taking a step forward, and handing her a scroll. The new alliance treaty with Konoha. Good job, Temari, Kankuro, Raza said, taking the scroll. He then looked at the foursome of Konoha ninjas. But I think that a mere paper is now irrelevant in the light of what has transpired these days. Ninjas of Konoha, in my and Suna's name, thank you for saving my children. Suna will always be a friend of Konoha as long as I'm the Kazekage. Good to hear that, Kurenai said, smiling a little. Also, you're invited to spend the day in the village. Tonight, we will have a feast to celebrate Gaara's return, the Kazekage said. Everybody cheered, and they headed back to the village. Temari and Kankuro then noticed somebody, an old woman, walking towards them, sporting a dejected expression. They recognized her as Chiyo, one of Tsunade's elders. Kankuro, Temari. I'm glad to see that both you and your brother are all right, Chiyo said. After a heavy sigh, she added. Was my grandson responsible for this? Temari and Kankuro nodded. I'm afraid yes, Chiyo-sama, Temari replied. It was as I feared. What has been of him? Chiyo asked. The two Suna Jonin took too long to answer, but their silence was all she needed to hear to know. I see. Deep down, I believe it was my fault my grandson took such a path. Don't blame yourself. We're all responsible for our own actions, and Sasori chose his path on his own free will, Kankuro firmly replied. I know it must hurt to learn the fate of a family member, but don't think for a second what he did was your fault. I know. I wish it was as easy, Chiyo lamented. Oh well, I'll try to see the positives. How we got both you and your brother back and that my grandson won't be able to hurt anybody else anymore. Several hours later, Kazekage stayed as expected. The party in Gaara's honor ended up being entertaining, memorable, and above all things, really fun. There was lots of food, drink, music and dancing. After finding out that Hinata was dating the son of a Kage, Matsuri asked the Hyuga to share advice on how she could approach Gaara, whom he had a crush on but saw him out of her league. The Hyuga heiress was way too happy to oblige. Despite having a good time in the celebration, and having more than enough reasons to celebrate, there was a couple things lingering on Naruto's mind that stopped from fully enjoying the festive mood. And he was going to deal with one of those issues right now. Exiting the party lobby, Naruto found a terrace where the sound of said party was barely audible. A deceptively cold night breeze brushed against his face as he entered the terrace, and the blonde saw a spectacular view of all of Tsunade. Yes, this place would be a perfect spot for what he wanted to do. He closed his eyes. The faint noises of the party in the other room, as well as the city above vanished, a deafening silence taking their place. Naruto opened his eyes, and he was no longer in the Kazekage state, but in a place where nobody but him could reach. "Hey, Kyubi!" Naruto called. Naruto heard a loud rumble, followed by an annoyed groan, as the mighty beast lazily stretched, and looked at him with unfriendly eyes. "Ugh, again so soon? What do you want now?" the Kyubi asked in a massively annoyed tone. "I wanted to thank you again for helping me save Gaara's life." "What you did means a lot to me," Naruto earnestly said, giving the best of his smiles. The Nine Tails, however, was far from amused. "I didn't do it to earn your gratitude," the Nine Tails angrily roared. "It was the only way to stop you from handing me to the Akatsuki." Far from being intimidated, Naruto chuckled, his smile becoming wider, as he rubbed the back of his head. "Huh, yeah, I can't believe you fell for my bluff," Naruto laughed. The Nine Tails was taken aback. "What did you say?" "I was really desperate to save Gaara, and I had nothing to bargain with you, and threatening you with that was the only thing I could come up with," Naruto happily confessed. "I mean, I know I'm not the brightest mind around, but even I know that letting Akatsuki getting their hands on you would lead to nothing but trouble. Heh, now that I think about it, I shouldn't have said that. Next time I'll be bluffing." "What would have you done had not I bought your bluff?" the Kyubi asked, sounding sincerely curious, rather than anger for being duped. "Truth be told, I have no idea," Naruto admitted again. "Though I don't like to think about that. I managed to save Gaara after all. Is there anything else you want? Or you came to disturb my rest just to show me your pointless gratitude?" the fox asked. "Actually, yeah, there's something I want to talk about," Naruto replied. A loud groan came from the fox, which Naruto promptly ignored. "That creepy statue used to extract and seal tailed beasts. I remember the way you reacted when I saw it for the first time. You know what is it, right?" The Nine Tails remained oddly silent. "I'll take your silence as a yes," Naruto continued. "Why don't you tell me what is that thing?" "Such knowledge won't do you any good," the Nine Tails replied. "It will, at least if you want me to prevent you being sealed there. Why do you fear so much being sealed inside that statue? Is any worse than being sealed inside me?" Naruto asked. The fox grumbled. "To put it into terms your feeble human mind can understand, imagine if somebody tried to shove you back into your mother's womb. Ew, gross." Naruto whined, as his face formed a grimace. "No wonder you don't want to be sealed there. Hey, wait a second, is that statue your mother or something like that?" "In a way, yes. But it's much more complicated than that," was the fox's answer. "Then tell me," Naruto said, earning a cold stare from his tenant. He crossed his arms, and stared back at him as he put the best serious face he could. "I'm not going to leave until you do. You should already know how stubborn I can be." Naruto earned another annoyed groan from the fox. I'd take ages to explain you all the details, so I'll give you an abridged version, the Nine Tails conceded. Long time ago, before my kind existed, there was a being called the 10 Tails. It was a beast of infinite power that ravaged the land, causing misery and destruction. Until one day, a very powerful man managed to defeat that beast by draining it of its chakra. He then split the chakra into 9 entities and gave them form and a mind of their own. That's how my siblings and I were born. He then proceeded to seal away the body of the beast, now a lifeless husk, since if the chakra of the 10 Tails was returned to its body, that monster would be reborn again, and would cause the end of the world. The fox's tale finished, Naruto took a moment to think about what he just learned. If what he said was true, then it was a discovery of epic proportions, since nobody really knew where tailed beasts came from. It also painted the Akatsuki under an even darker shade, since at first, Naruto thought that they merely wanted the tailed beasts to use their power for their own means. But if they were trying to revive such an apocalyptic beast, whoa, that was amazing, Naruto admitted. So in that way that statue is your mother. But I also have several questions. If that powerful man managed to seal the statue, how the Akatsuki obtained it then? And who was that man to begin with? To answer your first question, in order to unseal the statue, one must possess the same bloodline limit as the man who sealed it, the Rinnegan, the most powerful of all bloodlines, the Kyuubi explained. As for the man himself, you humans know him as the Sage of the Six Paths. Naruto's amazement vanished, being replaced by sour skepticism. He raised an eyebrow, as he crossed his arms again. Yeah. The Sage of the Six Paths. Really? Unsurprisingly, the fox took offense to Naruto's reaction. You don't believe me? Humph, fine then. But don't go asking me questions if you don't like the answers. It's not that I don't want to believe you, but the Sage of the Six Paths? Everybody knows that's just a myth of ancient times, Naruto replied, trying not to sound disrespectful. And what do you know about ancient times, human child? The fox snapped back. Now, if I sated your inane curiosity, go bother somebody else. Deciding that it was better not to press the Kyuubi any further and take what this conversation had revealed, Naruto exited the mindscape where the tailed beast was sealed. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in Suna. Albeit, truth be told, he never left that place to begin with. At least, his body didn't. Naruto-kun? What are you doing here by yourself? Hinata's voice asked from behind. Didn't you enjoy the party? Naruto turned around, and smiled at his girlfriend. Oh, no, none of that. The party was fine. But there's something that bothers you, right? Hinata guessed, holding her hands above her chest. Naruto chuckled. You know me so well. The Hyuga heiress took a step forward, and put on her most sincere smile. If there's something that bothers you, you can always talk with me, you know that? I know, Naruto nodded. Remember the barrier seal Akatsuki used to protect their hideout? It was Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, right? Hinata asked, recalling the events from the previous day. Are you worried about how much Uzumaki knowledge Akatsuki has in their power? At first yes, but then I realized of something. Something far worse, Naruto replied, sounding ominous. Keeping that barrier seal active consumes immense amounts of chakra. Even a Kage would have a hard time keeping it active for more than an hour or so. Only a member of my clan would have enough chakra capacity to keep it active for so long. Naruto-kun, are you implying? Yes. I believe one of the Akatsuki is an Uzumaki. Amigakure. From the top of a tall skyscraper, two figures contemplated the city below them, as rain constantly poured. A tall man with spiky orange hair, rippled purple eyes, and face covered in facial piercings, and a woman with blue hair styled in a bun, with two bangs framing her face, and light brown eyes. The two of them were wearing Akatsuki cloaks. 3 of the tailed beasts have been successfully captured. 1/3 of our job is now complete, the man said in a deep voice. The path to true peace lies even closer. Yes, but things will get more difficult from now onwards, Pain, the woman told her partner. Konoha and Suna will do their best to hinder our mission. They wouldn't be above warning other villages against us. You worry too much, Conan, Pain replied. The power the great villages currently have pales in comparison to Akatsuki. While true, it would be wise not to grow confident. Remember that Konoha and Suna did manage to interrupt the sealing ritual. It was luck that we were almost finished, Conan reminded him. Not to mention Sasori's loss. Pain, no Akatsuki member ever fell in battle before. Do not worry. I'll take measures such thing won't happen again, Pain assured her. As for Sasori, Obito and Zetsu are in the way of recruiting an even more powerful replacement. More powerful than Sasori? I'm already curious to meet this person, Conan admitted. While they do that, we need to continue with our plan, and decide which Jinchuriki should we target next, Pain said. Kakuzu requested he and Haiden to go and capture the Jinchuriki of the Seven Tails, currently residing in Taki, Conan informed him. He has a plan that will take time, but it will not only ensure the Jinchuriki, but will also notably increase Akatsuki's resources. An unsurprising claim, coming from Kakuzu. Wanting to go after his old village, while at the same time finding a way to make profit. Tell him he has my permission to proceed as he sees fit. But also tell him not to take much time with preparations, Pain decided. It will be done, Conan replied, before she crumbled into a mass of papers, which bend themselves into origami butterflies, and flew away. Somewhere in the moon when Obito and Zetsu emerged from the former's spiraling portal, they found themselves in a large, spacious room, tastefully decorated with all manner of expensive-looking ornaments and pieces of art. It looked like the place of residence of a particularly wealthy or powerful feudal lord. Suddenly, the two Akatsuki were surrounded by masked guards wearing dark robes. Spheres of golden chakra appeared in the hands of those guards, no doubt ninjutsu attacks ready to be fired. I don't know who you are, nor how you managed to get here, a soft, but firm, young-sounding voice said, as a white-haired man wearing a long, white robe walked towards them. Choose your words carefully, for they may be your last. Obito smirked, his confidence not wavering one bit. Hello. My name is Obito Uchiha. This is my associate, Zetsu. And you're Tonari Otsutsuki, am I right? You seem to know an awful lot about me. Tell me a reason as for why I shouldn't kill you two right here, and right now, Tonari replied. Let's say I made here to make a deal, Obito said, with a wide smirk. One you won't be able to say no to. His left Sharingan, the one it used to belong to Shursui, changed its shape into a four-bladed shuriken. Literally. Undisclosed location. A woman with long black hair and green eyes, who was wearing a long white robe, alongside other religious-looking apparels, contemplated the night sky. More specifically, the full moon. You sensed it, right, Nori? A voice said behind her back. The woman named Mori turned around, and saw a broad-shouldered man in his late 50s, with short brown hair and a thick beard of the same color. He was also wearing a similar religious garment as her. Yes, father. The moment we've been preparing for all our lives is about to come, Nori replied. You know what you have to do, then, the man said, his tone denoting urgency. Yes. I need to go to Konoha and bring the Byakugan princess here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained. Stay safe.